Okay, so today we're going to be covering the Project 1 current state of all your projects, right? And so I thought I'd start off by just giving us a recap of what we're doing today, and then also this Facebook stuff, So I've got some of you who've requested to join the page. The rest of you are going to still have to. Man, this looks like it's still downloading. Okay. What to talk about? That's sketches, crit. So I don't know. I think I mentioned PDF here, but I think somewhere else I said JPEG, so I don't really care. Just so we can look at them. As we get into each person, I'm just going to bring it up and put it full screen so that it's nice and easy. And then right as I put it up, like whoever's work we're looking at, for this project specifically, I want you guys to be giving just us that rough overview, right? You should have been thinking about like updating statements and stuff. So it's just kind of like that, without us reading your statement, just relating to us what we're looking at. Because it might not be super apparent, just a quick overview, like 30 seconds, or maybe like 45 seconds, like not a lot of time. The point being is that then we're going to leave much more time to just discuss, right? And give you a bunch of feedback in class. And I'll try to limit my involvement. Because I have worked with some of you already, but if there's stuff that's super relevant, I'll probably chime in here and there. So then going onwards towards Facebook feedback, some of the stuff that I'm going to cover here is also very relevant just to in-class critiques. So you can kind of think of it that way too. So I like to talk about feedback, and in the past, I've just put up like on an image, a slide of 4 types of feedback. I don't know where that is. I lost it and prepare it today. So you can think of feedback as being 4 different types. It's either positive or negative. And there's also a specific or unspecific of each of those categories. So you could say, oh, that image looks stupid. Well, that's negative, unspecific. You're not being specific, right? Also, you could say, oh, that image is cool. Well, okay, what about it, right? It's a nice gesture, it's positive, but it's not really being specific towards giving any constructive like movement forward, right? So I want you guys to like kind of reference this guide when you're going to do like those write-ups, because it's a good just writing example of making sure you're concisely relating what you're thinking, not just kind of blurbing something out. And we'll keep evolving this kind of mentality through the semester. I think that's really all I wanted to talk about. Anybody have questions before we get started? Zip. I'm going to label this real quick. Oh, did somebody just come in? Huh. Okay, looks like a bunch of you are late on these images, but we can get started. And oh, you know what? There was one person that contacted me. Well, Jessica's not here. She's at a sporting event that she's in. 1 second. Mallory's having internet problems. Is she on here? I don't think so. And there was one other person. Shoot. I didn't mark them down on my schedule. I'll maybe try to look here in a few minutes. Somebody else who might not be able to be here, but I said I could try to relate their image if they have it done. So anyway, we'll just go down through here, and I figure, we'll just do like 5 minutes a piece. And so, just give us a quick overview, and that way we'll have, ample time to chat. So hopefully we could all have some webcams going and get this started here. All right.
Okay, looks a little blurry from here. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So my concept is pretty much the same. My picture is supposed to depict the plight of refugees from the Middle Eastern world to Europe, and how it's an illegal journey and how dangerous it is. So originally the main piece in the middle was supposed to be like a big boat, but it just didn't look nice in the picture. And I thought, because sometimes the word refugee gets lost in like a group, to humanize it and put it in like one body, I thought it might be a little bit more powerful. The birds, I know we had to fax some pictures, but my fax wasn't working, so I took pictures of these birds I think last year in front of my school, and so I cut them out and put it on top. And that's pretty much it. It's I don't know, what else am I supposed to speak about?
Just giving us a rough overview.
Okay.
It's about refugees. And,
yes, that's pretty much it.
What are you trying to say with it? It's kind of like just relating those same questions that we've had on the proposal and such. That's all.
Yeah. So I think my main message is how little attention it gets, and like how many lives have been lost with it. In this journey, approximately 48,000 since 1990. Since the Middle East countries have entered a pretty complex political space. But yeah, so it's depicting that. I also wanted to show that it's not just one space, because right now you also have like Rohingya refugees, and then you have refugees coming from practically a lot of corners of the globe, so not just in there. So I put some of those faces over there overlapping with the text. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
What do you guys think? Let's get some chatter going.
I think this is.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think this is especially effective where you used actual like human faces in the Odyssey part when you like mask that there. I think that's a really powerful way to depict this.
Yeah, I agree. Can we see the city beneath it real quick? Is there anything noteworthy about that underneath the water?
I shrunk this because there we go. I think that the recording will save the video. So I have the video on the right. Sorry about that.
Is there anything noteworthy about the city? I mean, I like the video, but I just don't recognize it.
Yeah, so there's a Pinterest artist. Well, I don't know if he's a Pinterest artist, but he does post his pictures in Pinterest. And during the peak of the revolution, during the peak of the Syrian revolution, he used to draw like, the protests and the clash between civilians and, military personnel. And so he used to go out and draw these. And so this is depicting a Syrian city. I think it's I think he put Dara or something. Yeah, but it's depicting that city, and I want to show like how the peoples, the peoples the refugees, they die underneath their bodies disintegrate in the waters, and also their their livelihoods, their dreams, their aspirations, and also their homeland as well in some way gets destroyed.
Yeah, I think that's conveyed wonderful. I just had a question about the city. Thank you.
Michael, do you have any follow-up to that now that you have that context? Or?
I think it just adds, a lot more weight to the photo, and it conveys the message. I'll just add an even more deeper scale, because that's where the art is from. A refugee, and really is from where a lot of these refugees like that are depicted in the picture are from. So I think it just adds a lot more weight. I think it's done masterfully.
I really like what you did with the body in the center. I really picked up on the whole idea of like sometimes refugees kind of get lost in this generalized one big, one individual, and like the individual person isn't seen. And I like what you did with the birds. The first thing that came to mind when I saw the birds was kind of like this idea of like the lost voices. I don't know, kind of the way the body, I don't know if you did that on purpose or if it came with the image, but the way the body in the center is like there's like smoke coming off of it, and then it kind of is the same color as the birds. I got the idea of like lost voices that like with the ocean and everything. That's the idea that I picked up, and I think that you like represented that really well.
Cool. Any last comments here?
I've got one last comment. I like what you did with the bird silhouettes, and the fact that you took that picture makes it even cooler. And one thing that I might suggest is that I don't necessarily view the birds as a lost voice. I see it as more of like the person itself is dissolving into these birds, because that's what it kind of looks like. And so maybe it could represent sort of the freedom that they're trying to attain. So maybe what you could do is go in Photoshop and maybe use the brush tool and play around with the opacity to kind of make it look like brush over with a very opaque black and make it look like they're dissolving into the birds.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
I think I'll add one last thing too. And usually I like to just chime in on this note because the second project we're going to be dealing with type more. So I usually, I don't know, I usually focus on the second project, but because you're using it here, I wanted to bring up the fact that the rest of the whole image is just images, right? And so the top, we have this type, and I think that's fine, but in the way that you're using it as of right now, it kind of reminds me of like a documentary, you know, or like a magazine kind of news story, but not really a news story, but a very like organized way of relating something. So I think it showcases the struggle itself, but it almost looks like I don't know. I'm not like trying to really grind you or anything. I think though that by presenting it like that, it almost comes off as like really well polished in hindsight, you know, when like people are like researching things in the future and kind of mulling over historical kind of components. And I guess what I'm kind of thinking of is usually like in the moment when things are going on, it's much more chaotic. You know, there's a lot more strife and chaos around the different elements. And I think I'm not too sure, but the ways you're talking about it, it kind of seems like you're leaning more towards relating that struggle, right? Like those common struggles more so than like a historical documentary kind of thing, right? Yeah, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm just pointing out. I have like 2 alarms going on. Does that make sense at all? I don't know how to. I think I've rambled a little bit there, but
Yeah, I think you're saying it looks too organized for the nature of the topic. And it kind of doesn't look like I mean, that's one thing I noticed. It doesn't kind of look like a montage. So if I like, you know, if I have more time, maybe I'll work on it to make it look more.
I think it's done well. It's just the context of what you're using it for seems like it's a little out of place. So yeah, maybe just playing around with it, or maybe it needs more around the letters, or, you know, a background that's more chaotically on top of, or I don't know, just something to bring up. I don't think you need to like remove it all completely. Okay, probably a little bit long. My timer messed up there. The one thing I didn't mention that we should try to strive towards is not asking too many like super deep questions unless it's gonna bring out more of a conversation. In terms of critique time, it's a weird thing to try to do, but in terms of critique time, the more questions we're asking, the less actual time we're giving for feedback, if that makes sense. So for what it's worth, I thought I'd bring it up. And then, yeah, when people give you feedback, some people are very good at like nodding, okay, like, yes, thank you. And then sometimes you have that notion that you want to like speak and relate back to what was said. If we're talking about your work, try to just kind of uphold that like nod, okay, like noted, you know, and we'll keep talking. Again, it's a little weird, but the point here is to try to get as much feedback as we can for you, for each of you. So let us continue. Ian. Zoom in. That's pretty close. Take it away.
Okay, so I kind of ventured off the beaten path a little from my project proposal, although there are some the main theme of that is still kind of depicted in what I have here. So as you can see, you've got like an audience below kind of watching this lady watching a TV, and I wanted to, I drew a lot of inspiration from a show, a movie called The Truman Show, and just to sum that up, it's just about a guy in his own reality that was created by Hollywood, and everyone's watching what he's doing. So I wanted to add that new layer into what was originally part of my project proposal. And so you see this lady watching TV, and it's kind of cracked, and it's got two hands coming out of it. And if you notice, like the texture is kind of like the media barcode that you'll notice sometimes. And then in the middle, it's this kind of weird silhouette of some kid, but the inside of that is some lady. And so she's looking at this lady, and the hands are kind of representing like, this is what you should be, this is the truth. And she'll never obtain that truth because the lady inside that image is from an AI generated. That lady's not real. So they're telling her that she has to be this way, and that is the perfect form that she could be, but that can't be obtainable because it's not a real image. And then behind that, we see sort of like a matrix code thing, how leaking into this image just to show that the world that she is also living in is not real.
I really like what you've done in the background with like that kind of digital like matrix type text. I think it really adds to this idea of like being within a reality within a reality, and it kind of, you know, for the viewer, I think is going to cause them to have a lot of questions. One thing I might add is like that white space seems a little empty, so maybe like dragging that down or filling it with something might help bring the image more together.
Shafira, I was just about to say that it feels a little bit empty over there. Like that white under those liquid letters, the code should have something, even a shade, even, you know, a solid color other than white.
So I like the screen and the shattering of it. And it looks like a very powerful symbol, but I would really like to see it much bigger so that it's more domineering. You know, so hopefully it gets like a more powerful impact if it's a little bit bigger, maybe.
To tag on to what Aisha said, you could maybe make it like a cinema screen instead of just like a little flat screen TV.
Ian, I don't know if you mentioned, could you relate what the cracks are for again?
Oh, those are just kind of like the hands like breaking through. It doesn't really look like that now. I just kind of like smack it on top of it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't kind of really look like it's coming through that. So I gotta still play around with that.
Yeah, I think I would really bust through that mold a little bit more, bring it more towards us. And what is the barcodes dripping for?
That's just to show that, like, so the audience that is watching her, the audience is sort of in like the real plane of existence, and then they're watching her in her own make-believe reality. So it's just to show that behind her world is nothing. Like it's just a simulation.
Yeah, I guess it's just a little confusing at first glance, like what's going on, and so still, because it looks like we're in a theater, right? But then there's this like blurring happening, and then this woman's larger. So like, is this all a screen? And then we have a screen in a screen. I don't know, I guess just some of the orientation of things, like, you know, maybe this dripping is dripping all the way down or dripping out of the TV from it being broken, or, you know what I mean? So maybe just resituate some things. Is she, so what is, man, I feel like I listened to everything, but I'm not grasping. What is she representing here?
He is just the person that they're watching, and she's just some random person that the media is telling that she needs to be this way, that is the ultimate truth. That's what she's trying to do.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be more along the focus of getting us more in the context that the audience is looking at something, and then that fusion between the two, or what it's doing. I don't know, but you got to play around. I think there's even a way where whatever's happening here could be like fading off into the real world, or, you know, I don't know. It could be, it doesn't have to be realistically like it's in front of them. Maybe the screen is like dripping down onto them, playing with, you know, the context of things. So that's the one thing I'm not seeing as much of. Like, I see the mask stuff here, but in terms of like layer blending and stuff like that, that's a really easy one to be able to slap in there to make some more meaning. So I'm interested in kind of like seeing what you could, you know, bring up through that. Shenyu. Oh, Shenyu, you're pretty quiet. Maybe your microphone's far away, or it might be turned down.
What I want to show in my project is a world where animals and humans data. On the bottom right corner, I ate a pair of glasses to show that he had human intelligence, and the dog is riding on a bike shows it as the skills of humans, and the deer nearby is wearing human decoration and thinking about iPhone and social media like YouTube. Animals are living the original life of human beings, and humans will live like animals and will be so that twice. Humans become the pets of animals and lost everything they had in real life. The dog has a weight of money on his back, which has also become the animal's parent to treat humans. At the same time, I made the size of animals very large and the size of humans become very small. In this world dominated by animals, humans have very low social status. For the sun, in real life, we can always see the sun like no animals allowed or only human allowed. So in this world, I made a sign that there are no humans allowed. So my project, I wish people can think in animals' perspective and try to protect animals in real life.
Okay. Yeah, it was still pretty hard to hear you. I think the general consensus though is that you're delivering an image where you're reversing the roles between humans and animals, and you're showing animals are seeking out these things that normally they don't have, that now they have access to.
In my project, I want to show the world gets fermented by animals and human lost everything, lost every skills.
Yes, yeah. So just the reversal between the two. Yeah, I think that would be much better to concise that down because it was like a 3-minute long introduction. So anyways, do you guys have any thoughts towards this?
I like all the imagery that's used, but the one thing I might say is that besides the no humans allowed, the whole idea that like roles are reversed, I feel like you can't really pick up on that from what you see. So I would maybe just try to like add in a bit more symbolism to kind of show that to differentiate the whole role reversal thing, because besides if that sign wasn't in there, I don't think you'd be able to pick up on that as easily.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that as well. Like I did see in a couple images, like the deer, you put like a necklace, like a chain, and also glasses on Tom Nook. So I think like things like that, those materialistic items, more of that would probably really help.
And the one thing I want to bring up too, just so maybe we can get a comment on it, is going back to this notion that we don't necessarily need to be able to read the image exactly for like the statement, right? We're going to be able to have that sense of reading the statement and then looking at the image for this project. So we should be able to have that connection. So on this project, I generally like for you guys to explore like abstraction, blending things, that sort of relation. So with that being said, if she were to incorporate any of those sort of components, does anybody have any thoughts towards how she might be able to do that? It's just right now it's very like, you know, two-dimensionally staged. So I just thought maybe you guys would have any.
Well, the text mentions animal kingdom, so maybe what you could do is instead of having like the sky in the background, like keep the ground itself with like the little, I don't know, it kind of looks like grass, and maybe add a new landscape to the back of that round, like the human kingdom, as it were, to just to add another layer of the depth of field to that.
Yeah. And yeah, I think the approach that I'm seeing as of right now is more like this, like graphical, you know, more so than some kind of hyper realistic or dreamlike scene. So if you are sticking with this graphical approach, what other areas could you impose a graphical approach? So like the sky right now is all one layer, right? It's all kind of like one image. Could you impose like a secondary image within the clouds or within the sky separately? You know, like, so you can still keep that graphical approach, but also then impose more things. So because we have these labels on the screen, like the animal kingdom, right? It kind of starts to push this theme of being like a movie poster, you know, something like that, where you do see those kinds of things, like you know, somebody shows a movie cover shows like somebody's face, and then inside their face it shows like other action going on, right? So yeah, I think it's making sure you're set on the graphical, and then how can you you know, push that further using some other tools. Okay, that is not what I wanted to do. Sophia.
So the concept for my idea was the whole idea that people tend to lose their own sense of reality because of the watching eyes of others around them. You know, people are always trying to satisfy the needs of others and look good in the eyes of other people, and in the process they lose themselves. So that's where the whole kind of where the third eye is, there's an eyeball, and that's kind of, that eye kind of represents the overwatching eye of just like society. And then you have the closed eyes because to kind of represent this sense of like losing yourself, and then the tears coming down with the silhouette of the girl, kind of adding on to the sense of losing yourself. I still have a couple more images to add in, and to kind of make this idea a bit more cohesive in my own mind, but that's the concept that I was going with.
So I don't think the eyelashes really come through. So maybe like changing the color a little bit so they pop. I really like the tears and how you can see the girl inside them. Also, there just seems to be like a little bit empty space. And I know you said you're going to add more pictures. Yeah, but overall, I think it's pretty cool.
I think it's a really nice concept that you have like the people falling from the teardrops, but it doesn't like get the sense that you're getting watched almost. Like you know the scenes from like mystery movies where they have like all the eyes around them? I know you said you were going to add more, but that is what I think you should maybe add.
Okay, I want to make a very positive comment. Like, I really like the whole idea. Maybe if I would, you know, not correct, maybe if I would change something on the way I see it, it would be uh, the eye seems to need to be blended a little bit more, maybe needs a little bit of shade, and the whiteness around it, that supposedly it's a galaxy or something like that, should match it and be a little bit more intense to show that it's an object over there around it.
Yeah, going off of that, just like this is just something small that I noticed. I feel like if you use maybe like a green eye, it would stand out against the galaxy background really well and like pop. But other than that, I really like the concept, and I like how you can see the silhouette in the tears.
The one thing that I'm kind of getting at through the top of the eye here, because there's this like almost looks like a depression, right? Kind of like sinking down in. I almost get the thought of like the eye as a black hole, right? Everything's kind of being sucked into the eye. So maybe it's along those lines of forming the image. I'm not sure. It doesn't have to be. What do you guys think about how to be upholding this or imposing some more stuff on this background? Because as of right now, like the purple almost stands for like the top of a head if the person's kind of looking forward. But as far as the rest, any thoughts?
I think just adding on more to like there's people watching, or maybe like make planet-sized eyeballs or eyeballs that look like planets or something to that effect, and maybe to make it look more like a face, add more of a depression to like the side of it to show that like there's a face coming through it a little bit. You get what I'm trying to say? like almost if you were to like take a plastic bag and then like press your face against it, and then you kind of get like the weird plastic over across your face.
All right. Konstantinos, right?
All right, that's me. Yep. Our smartphones and apps. And my idea came like by thinking like, okay, how many times in a day I'm using my phone for anything else other than call someone? And pretty much the smartphone became part of what we do every day. Like I run my business through my phone, for example. So I thought to do something to show exactly this, like it's a fake world through the phone with the real world. And the concept that came up to my head is like, if it was a company who would name App World that does all these apps.
I really like how you made like what's in the phone and the outside kind of like blend together. I really like what you did there with like making what's in the phone black and white. It being the same imagery outside, but it being colored. I think that adds a lot of like, and for me, it adds a lot of dimension. I just really like how you did that.
Also, like I get a very grim feeling from the app because it's so monotone. And I don't know if you're going for that, but it's almost like, you know, like you said, it's almost taking over the real happy, colorful world outside of it. Yeah, so it's nice.
What are some other cues that we could see to get a better sense that this is an app?
The fact that it's in the phone and actually what you're actually saying right now would trouble me a lot, how to gonna make it feel like an app.
I guess
that's why I made them black and white to show, first of all, it's fake, and also to show the pieces in the app. Everything is in there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could use some phone icons, like, you know, the batteries and things that you usually have on top of the phone, or some apps even have like buttons or things like that, to, you know, if you want to give more of that app feel. Yeah.
Actually, that would be a good idea. Haven't thought of it.
What do you guys think about the background?
I understand it's supposed to show like the overworld, but it would be kind of nice to see how like looking through the app all the time kind of affects everything in the overworld. Maybe like some things that you do in the app affect like the behavior of what's going on outside, or maybe like you could do something with the clouds where you make like a clipping mask or something, and the clouds themselves are made up like a whole bunch of apps, and they're kind of just like shadowing over everything in the world.
I don't know if you did this on purpose, but like in the app, like the cars at the bottom are still, but outside the app, like it's moving very fast. And I don't know if like that's to show that like in the real world things move faster than the app, but I almost think maybe it would be more powerful to reverse that, because I feel like in like what you're trying to convey is that like in the real world is like where we need to put our time and our energy, but the app is kind of taking over. So maybe not necessarily with the cars having to reverse that, but that same kind of concept of how you have time sped up outside, maybe do some type of manipulation of time inside the app as well.
Yeah, and a couple other thoughts I have is, there could be, you could situate it in the sense that somebody's like holding the phone, like an arm's coming up. You could have a sense that if you did that, it's less about like, because as it stands right now, it's kind of like a TV commercial where you're seeing how to use the iPhone, but there's nobody holding it, which can be fine, right? So you could leave it like this, or you could have like other people in the scene also relating to the app in the world in some way. So my thought to that was, it'd kind of be nice to see this character larger, maybe, so that the arms would go outside the phone, but you can't see the hands, right? So it's evident that there's an inside and an outside, because it's the same bridge and such, same building, but it's not clear if this is actually there or not. So I think by having that extend, we would have that clarity, and then, yeah, so like if you were to situate this as people like looking at this app in that space, you could almost have people like, somebody there like with their phone, like pointing, or some kind of context to relate that. But in general, it would be interesting to see how else you can activate this background, because it is kind of just that one plane right now. Okay. Whose is this?
That's me.
Quincy, right? Yeah.
So my sort of general idea has changed since I started making this. Originally, it was sort of about like creative compromise, but I guess it's still sort of related to that, but now it's more based in how the artist is sort of at a disadvantage when they're working with, producers and hire the representation of them. So obviously this picture shows the producer or whoever he represents him sort of manipulating him, and how he's sort of at the will of this person. I stuck to the photorealistic style as well, just because tonally it seemed to make more sense. I think I'm probably going to add more, but I'm going to have to clean it up a bit as well. But my issue is that I feel that if I add more, it will get cluttered, or it'll like sort of distract from the message of the image. Yeah, but that's my basic overview.
I like the effect that you're going for, that you got a hand kind of like puppeteering him and drawing strings for the artist. My one thing that I would suggest though is that you have like the producer sort of like facing off here, and you can't really see that it would be his hand or there's any necessarily connection to that. So maybe change like the orientation of the producer, or like maybe try to make it like his hand, or maybe just add a new person there to kind of just like be looking over him. Going.
I have the feeling that something is missing between the guitar player and the images around. Maybe that needed a little bit more smooth blending, maybe a little bit more feather.
You're talking like around here?
No, between the guitar player and the images around him. The bar, restaurant that looks maybe needed a little bit to be extended a little bit more down. The one at the top, for example, and faded out.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody else is getting that. It seems a little fuzzy when you.
No, I see what he's saying. Maybe like the producer guy's like smoking a cigarette and like the smoke is kind of like trailing down into the other images. Because if you look right now, you've got the smoke and then like something through that and it looks like it's the smoke itself. But then if you look further down, the rest of them look like there's like a darkness behind it, and then it's kind of just you took the brush tool and you kind of showed what was behind it, but it's not the same smoky effect as the image above does.
I think there's probably a few film people here. What's the traditional film? It's black and white where they really just focused on lighting. Black and white. Was it noir? Is there something else? It's noir. So yeah, Quentin, maybe that's something to take some reference on, because that's the kind of vibe I'm getting. Because these panes here, they are kind of mysterious, right? And as I'm trying to look at it, I'm trying to make sense of how we're seeing this or why, or, so I think it would be wise to keep upholding that sense of using them as some kind of structure. And so like maybe the string, is fading out while it's going through that, and then it comes back, or, and you're making the rules, right? So beyond that, they also kind of, as they stand right now, it almost relates to like if you were to see shards of glass at an angle and you're getting a reflection through that. So that's why I say maybe take some reference from some old film, the film noir, black and white stuff. And the smoke ideas are utilizing more of the effects with smoke could be pretty fun. All right. Jasmine.
I mean,
Jasmine, can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it looks like you're unmuted, but there was no volume coming through.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yep, great.
Okay, hold on one second. Okay, still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, that was really weird. I don't know what happened. I'm sorry. Okay, so for my project, I made it in a POV of someone holding a pair of glasses. And the images within the glasses are of like a different reality. So as you can see, the world is brighter, more imaginative, and super weird than outside of the glasses. So you can see like the people walking towards the glasses are distorted and they turn into like cartoony characters. The flowers and the bushes change color and shape, as well as the trees to like the right. I added some bubbles and just other weird images just to put in there to kind of like give that contrast. So I guess like my main message was that creativity kind of like radiates through everyone. And sometimes you just need like a little push to see what you want. And also that the world is pretty cool. You just may need to change like your angle or your vision to see it.
So it looks so pretty. And I think the message it's clear too, like, you know, without you even explaining it. And I love how like you seamlessly blended. It doesn't look like two different pictures, you know, the action and everything. Even her, I don't know how you did it. Even her. Oh wait, okay, yeah. All right, I was about to say even her dress and everything. Yeah, so it looks really nice, and it looks very neat too. I like it a lot.
Thank you.
First thing that I noticed is that you can obviously see that like the hands themselves and the glasses are kind of blurry, as they would be if you're taking off your glasses and you're kind of just holding them. But then also just going off the rule of that, if you're looking through your glasses, that itself is going to be clear. But I feel like maybe my suggestion would be like the overworld itself should be blurry, since you don't have the glasses on fully yet. And as someone who has glasses, you know, like, you should just take it off and look at like this. Everything else is still going to be blurry, but if you look through the frames of the glasses, it's going to be clear.
Thank you. That's a good idea. I had not thought of that.
Kind of going off with what Ian said, with the outside world kind of being blurry, I don't know if you're distinctly trying to like convey like that, like you have to change your angle because the outside world can be a little bit like bleak sometimes. But just the outside world, like the colors are also still very bright. I mean, you did like a great job in the glasses. I mean, the colors look so great and they're really pretty, but like also the outside world, the colors are very bright. So maybe just, I don't know, like darken, in terms of contrast, darken them just to make the contrast between looking through the glasses and the outside world, make it even more apparent. That's just a suggestion.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was the big one I was thinking about.
Yeah, I can also add on that to his glasses. I had it and I just lost it. Yeah, it's another thing with, because I suffer from not being able to see close up, but not being able to see far away. I forget. So that would be something really cool you could do, is like being able to like see whichever angle you're going to go for, being able to see the people that are close up or far away, whatever you want to do, but not being able, like blurring out like what's in the background, whatever you're going for.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Hey, so I walked in the kitchen to grab this drink while you were talking, and I'm referencing your statement. Did you veer away from your statement then?
No, I think I kind of followed it kind of closely. I didn't really. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Because you mentioned you want to create an image of new infrastructures in space due to humans removing themselves from planet Earth as they have destroyed it. So I guess I don't see them destroying it, though.
I don't think that's me. I think that might be a different student.
Oh, okay. Yep.
That sounds like Jessica.
Yeah, it is Jessica's. Jasmine. Dang it. I'm sitting here trying to form context around that point, and it's the wrong project. All right, 1 second.
You're good. No worries.
Anybody else while I'm reading this real quick?
Excellent work. Seriously. The only thing I would say, like maybe at the under their feet, you should put a little bit of
A little bit of shadow.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what are the glasses supposed to be representing? That's what I'm trying to figure out, I guess.
I'm not really sure. I guess they just, I guess they just represent like creativity itself. Like you just, I don't know, like some people can just like look at something and just create something super weird and different, I guess.
I think maybe she was going for like the rose-colored glasses effect or something similar to that, rose-colored lenses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it could be important to try and isolate that, like come up with that and use that in your statement. And then if you have that, I'm also then thinking like, does it need to be necessarily limited to just glasses or not? The only reason I'm trying to think of this is because there is a lot of this unactivated space, you know? So it's like, well, how might that space get activated in some way? I think you could even just to create, like Sophia was saying, to create more of a sense of contrast. Maybe it's you're working different images together in some way, like blending them out, where as you go away from the glasses, it's getting darker, you know, and maybe that darkness is actually not just black, but it's like a different gloom image or something. You know what I mean? But that's really where I'm stemming from is like, well, how can we activate that other space? And I guess it's stemming from that question of like, what are the glasses representing? And I guess having that context might help you kind of proceed forward in the right way.
Okay, thank you.
Sweet dudes. Kayla. Yeah, and just a reminder as we're going through these. Oh, looks like Kayla, you have a PSD instead. Is Kayla here? Kayla's
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, where are you? Oh yeah, you're here. Okay, I breezed over you. This is fine. I can zoom in.
So for mine, I'm still working on the main thing right now that I'm still trying to figure out a better way to show it is the eyes in the upper right corner, but I'll get to that point. So I was sticking with what I showed in my drawing last time of I want to show like how we are so like quick to question things around us when there's so much we have like still left to discover about ourselves. So I want to show that through like space, how we look out into space as a mystery, but like as if there's like a figurative like being in space, like looking back at us as the mystery. So I tried to show like the dark side. I'd like to show, since some people said it wasn't like a clear vision, I shaded on top of half of the earth and half of space to show like the two dark sides of it. And from the earth side, I wanted to show like somebody looking out. And then from like the light side of space, it's like I put in the bottom right corner to show like one of like the mysteries of space because there's so much like to discover. And then I'm working on trying to find a way to put the eyes in a more creative way. So I'm still messing around with that. So if anybody has like an idea about that, that's like my biggest thing right now. But yeah.
Great. Yeah, I like how you interjected a question. That's good. I want to just get out before opening up to everybody else. I noticed since it's Photoshop and I opened it up, super blurry right off the bat. So I went to look at the image specifications, at least what I got downloaded from online. So it might be, I would assume it's the same as what you have. Mm-hmm. You only have it set to the dimensions, like starting dimensions are already lower than what is required, as well as the resolution. So this is kinds of stuff you would set from the beginning. So like if you would have set 300 from the beginning, you could still retain that dimensions, but just having more quality. Mm-hmm. But because you did not set the resolution correctly at the beginning, if we were to bump it up from 72 to 300, your actual image scale goes down to like 1 inch by 1 inch something. So if we were to print it at like full res at 300, it would be, like a 1 inch square. instead of like a, tabloid sheet. So that being said, like I don't know how far along you are, but it could be worth trying to reestablish like that, like the document and going forward.
Yeah, I think that might have happened because I, in the middle of doing this, had to go from campus home. So in the time, I guess I don't think I fully saved it. So when I went back to open it, to restart it, it was like at a weird middle point. So I think maybe it was before I had changed everything, but I'll go back in and like try to fix all of that.
Yeah, because I mean, it's just a small component that I would be checking off for like the grade stuff, but like in terms of your project, you wouldn't really be able to use this for like a portfolio, so to speak. So if you're going to spend time on something, you want to make sure it's well spent. So yeah, I wanted to bring that up. Okay, we'll start off this timer here. What do you guys think?
The first thing I notice is the larger being out in space that's supposed to be looking at Earth, and I'm wondering if she's really looking at Earth, because it kind of looks like she's looking at us, and not necessarily like she's not really looking downward. And also, another suggestion I might make is maybe you want to make that face bigger. That way, like he or whoever's the larger being, kind of like casting the shadow on the dark side of the Earth. But that's what I noticed.
About your problem with the eyes, I would not crop them, but fade them up here somehow, a little bit over the eyebrows and a little bit over below the eyes. And I will show more of the eyebrows left and right, and probably make it bigger. And also I would sharpen the inside of the eyes. That will make them look a little bit more clear.
I would, in terms of, I really like your idea of kind of having like the unknown look back at us as if we're unknown, just to start off. But I think maybe making the image a bit larger and like letting there be more space instead of it being so tight, so that like if you go off of I think what Ian said about making it a whole face so it casts a shadow, it makes a bit more sense spatially. Also like playing around with like the idea of like, I see like you have like that like galaxy down there in the corner, kind of also like I'm helping to represent the unknown. Maybe playing around with like the idea of there being nothing or some type of dark space, because that that can also represent like the idea of unknown empty space or dark matter or something of that type of idea.
Yeah, definitely my biggest thing that I'm trying to figure out is like the face. So I'm glad that everybody had like things to say about that, because now I'm getting closer to like how I want it to show. And the idea of like the face casting the shadow that Ian had mentioned and people like built upon, I didn't think of before. So I actually really like that.
My one thought too is we have the Earth, so we were thinking about that scale, and then you're kind of imposing a face to be like shadowing the Earth, which is right, that interesting ploy on scale. I also wonder then if you might use this left side maybe potentially for making the Earth look really tiny as well, from a different perspective maybe. My thought in my mind is like, it could almost be a marble, it's just everything is in space right now, and thinking through like recontextualizing the size of it through the face. You know, maybe there's another way that you can also, you know, nail that point home. Okay.
Sorry, I was getting back to my Zoom. So for my project, I'm basically doing my concept is basically the person's inner demons has been, not inner demons, her shoulder angel and shoulder devil have been inner voices, I guess you'd call it, have been talking to her for so long that they're starting to take over her, both mentally and physically. So that's what I'm trying to convey in the art piece. It's the contrast between the shoulder angel and the shoulder demon physically taking over.
I really like your idea. I almost want to see like more inner turmoil, I guess, within the actual like individual. Like, because I mean, you make it very apparent with like both sides, like the kind of idea you're trying to represent. But in terms of like her mental state, I don't know if there's any way you can do this, but like that inner turmoil, that inner struggle, maybe try to have that come through a little bit more.
Someone else brought up the idea of having a mirror in the foreground, so I was thinking of doing that. Like having her appearance in a mirror.
Another thing I noticed is that you say that the two sides are taking over her, but other than the wings that are sort of...
Yeah, I'm working on figuring out like how to do the skin tone.
Right. Like I see a tattoo of like a trident on her arm. I don't know if it's part of the actual lady or not, but I feel like that's maybe more symbolic with the devil side. Is it part of the image? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the pitchfork for the devil side.
It's just like I feel like there should be more going on in the background because it's like what Sophia said, you don't really get like that struggle. You know, maybe like it doesn't even have to be a straight line kind of splitting the two. Maybe like they're clashing with each other. It's really violent.
And one more thing, darker and her right side is brighter because probably the flash was right side as we see. Demon side and the angel side would maybe be a little bit better because then you have hell on the dark side and heaven on the bright side.
To show like that inner turmoil you were talking about, you can maybe even like mask the dress and like show what she's thinking. I don't know.
That could work. But I currently have like I've been working on it before class because I submitted this last night. I currently have a mask that not mask. I did a selection with the selection points, and I put in like a mask, not mask. Put in images with like different. I'm blanking, but I know what I'm trying to say. Like half the dress is like it's more of the same. It's half is one side, half is the other side.
Yeah, I think the thing that gets me is the like seeing this inner turmoil. And you're talking about physically and mentally. So
I didn't take into account when I made my proposal how to show
what?
How to show the mental aspect.
Oh, well, you don't have to necessarily detail everything out completely. My thought is that you can be, labeling the surface of her in different ways for the physical, right? Like literally making changes or branding. And then the mental, quote unquote, could be these kinds of transparent auras around her head or stemming from her head, right? Kind of that like cloud of cognition, so to speak, right? Maybe. And then maybe not just only are they blending, or not only like could they be transparently overlaying, but maybe some sorts of blending. And so what would be interesting about that is that some of the positive thoughts could be shown on the, on this like negative side or the evil side, right? And so if there is that overlay of thoughts on the backgrounds, do they affect the backgrounds in different ways? Right. So there's a whole, you could, I think, really use that structure to really experiment. Okay. Roland.
My idea is about social media affects our lives. Nowadays, technology develops, so we lost ourselves as we browse various social media. So I focus on one common problem, which is body image. Through social media, we think the skinnier, the better. So many people are unhealthy to lose their weight. So I found some image online about body image. As you can see in the center, there is a girl. She's going to have some social media apps behind her, and the part of this girl is disappearing, which means she's being affected by the social media, and other image around her just relate to the body image. So my audience is everyone because everyone is influenced by social media. So the message I want to convey is like look less at your cell phone and live a healthy life. Love yourself. That's it.
I like the really consistent sort of art style there is to all these images here. I guess if I was to critique something here, it would be that the tape measure in the bottom left does not really fit this like consistent art style. That's sort of a minor complaint, but it is something to note.
Yeah, I thought that this was really a great idea. And I like, as Quentin was saying, I like all the image that you used. It would be kind of cool because I know that the girl in the middle is disappearing due to all of, everything going around. It'd be really cool if maybe that mirror that she's holding, if you're able to like put like her face in there and show that like, she's like really like sad and affected by everything going on. But I mean, that's the only thing I could think of. Other than that, this is a really, really good idea.
I really like this is more just like a positive note. I just really like how you put kind of the phone screen as the background. I like to have it at an angle too, so it's not just kind of 2D. I think that's really, the way you implemented that was really nicely done.
I like the idea of you adding the social media icons, that they kind of play a huge role into how people perceive their body appearances and what's viewed as socially acceptable. But I'm wondering, instead of just having them there kind of static, like even though you kind of rotated them, I wonder if you could maybe add some like comments that people say on various different platforms, or maybe you can have it so like the various different icons are kind of attacking her. Maybe they look like drones of some sort, or maybe you could play around with the idea that they're sort of harassing people in the image.
So I have a propose a question here for you guys. If we have all these icons here, kind of like in the foreground or whatever, do we necessarily need everything on the background as well? Or how about some thoughts between those two?
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily if it's necessary to kind of double up on that, because again, kind of like with just the icons themselves, you kind of putting that there in the background. You know, I don't know if it necessarily like jumps right out. Yeah, you know, I feel like maybe you could add something like a bunch of people laughing in the background, some other elements, because yeah, I don't feel like it's really necessary to kind of double up on that, unless you're like showing, maybe you're showing the comments in that background. It's like you scrolling through all the mean comments of people saying on various different posts or something like that from different platforms. I feel like that maybe would be better than just the icons themselves.
I'm thinking if I were to keep the background, I'll probably add some elements that shows, I don't know, maybe a diet plan, or you know how some girls, they take pills to maintain their weights. Just some elements that shows she's trying really, really hard to lose weight or maintain, you know, a certain size or something.
All right. Yeah, and some people were asking about theirs not being on here. I'm sure everything says it on Google. This is just, I just downloaded everything off of Google. So this is just what's showing up. So I have urines, and then added. So unless they came, yeah, so they just came in looks like two different zips. I don't understand how the compression zip thing works. So let's see what else is in here. Or maybe that was the original zip. Yeah, so I'll just have to go on the drive separately. Okay. So yeah, urine's up, and then I'm hoping we can get some more comments from those who haven't really been too active in participating. I'm just relating that I am keeping kind of notes on that. So
Should I? Hello?
Hey, yeah, you had a question?
No, it's just should I start introducing?
Oh, yeah, yep. Right when I bring this up, yep.
Okay, so my inspiration for this project is based upon I remember seeing a news last year saying that uh, lots of the stores like Zara or Forever 21, they're closing their physical stores permanently and turning everything online. It's just I feel like the whole COVID-19 pandemic really accelerated our how much we rely on the information technology and stuff. So I was thinking this is kind of like I don't know if it's like a post-human kind of thing, but this one is basically saying that probably in the future everyone's just gonna be laying in bed or at home and having this weird device kind of thing that you have this goggle kind of glasses and this just everything is connected to your senses and all your feelings things that are online, which is the ones that are on the left. Everything's fancy. You can do shoppings over there, and in real life, just it's just like people are way too focused on the virtual reality, and they actually forgot how they are in the reality, the actual reality, which is on the right. So you can see his room is a mess, and there's trash everywhere. And I put a little bit of I like vitamin kind of pills to basically just to keep him alive, because he's too focused on the virtual reality, and he's just not paying much attention to his himself in real life. I was also like, this is also inspired by another old movie that everyone's controlling a robot, and the robot is going outside to the world doing everything for them, but they're just laying at home. But I was thinking about adding a CGI model on the right, on the left side, to represent the image that everyone has online, but I couldn't find one, so I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I've got a couple of thoughts here. I like the image in the middle, sort of like Professor X Cerebro machine that this person is using. Maybe you could even like take an image of an Oculus Rift and have that as the goggle, so people really know that you're kind of in like a VR element. And also what you were just saying at the end there, like a CGI model, maybe you want to grab something from like VR chat, if you know what that is, how people kind of like make their models, but you know, it's not exactly themselves. So maybe you want to put a bunch of them kind of like walking around shopping in the left image.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I entirely agree with Ian, what he was saying. I also really like the contrast between the virtual shopping center side and the what we are actually experiencing in real life part of the image. How you were saying all that.
I'm sorry?
I just think it's a really good contrast.
Thank
and
you.
I just yeah.
Anybody else? the only thing that I think that I wanted to mention is, yeah, in terms of contrast, like being able to see things. I didn't know what you meant about pills until I honed in here. So I think when you're working, you want to always kind of also zoom out and just double check to see the clarity of different elements. I think one of the misconceptions we have of all working on the screen is that we can zoom in really close, but also wanting to make sure like that the whole picture, that we're still able to kind of grasp everything easily. Okay, so let's see. Jasmine, you haven't gone, right? Or have you gone? You have gone.
Yeah.
You were just saying you have to leave. Okay, I was making sure. And then who else? Maggie, is she still here? No, she had to leave, I guess. But she sent me her statement. So we'll just record real quick, give her a few minutes here. So Maggie's project, I'm just going to read what she has here, shows the ideas of hyperreality and simulacra by showing the inside of a person's mind. It shows an office with a window looking out through the eyes along the gears that make it look like the inner workings of a machine. This symbolizes how deeply ingrained technology is in our being without us even realizing it, and how even when we believe we are expressing individuality, underneath is all we are, just copies curated and run by society. This idea is similar to Pixar's Inside Out, but much more darker, more realistic. Still needs to change some things. She's new to Photoshop.
I would say that if she is going for like a more because like in terms of just the head, I see a lot of like shapes and kind of gives me like real like geometric type. It gives me like a geometric vibe, but then the outside is very natural. I'd say like if she's going for the more geometric vibe, maybe make that more cohesive with the outside and the whole idea that it's more like grim and bleak, like she said in her statement. Otherwise, maybe making the inside match the outside. I just find like the outside and the inside a bit contrasting the way she set it up. But other than that, I think the idea is really great.
Anybody else maybe that we haven't heard from yet?
since the person is like trying to go into what I believe is a room, I can't really see it, but like they can try and make the room a little bit more three-dimensional almost.
I would think to put the picture inside the head, the room. I would think to put it in some kind of screen or something, in some kind of frame in general.
Yeah. Okay. Who else we have? A few people, right? Valerie's not here.
I didn't speak yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is your?
Might be the project one, PDF.
Hang on a second. I have a lot of windows here.
Okay. Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
Okay. My project shows Edmund Burke's views. The sense of sublime comes from our fear. Burke believes that sublime things must have two conditions. The first, it makes people feel fear. And the second, it is harmless to us. In the other word, only if it doesn't hurt us, the entire object can be transferred into sublime. And he also believes that sublime objects have some traits, such as huge, fuzzy, and extreme atmosphere made by light and color. So you can see in this picture, I use the contrast between the fish and the boat to make the fish look very huge. And also I use the bar filter. The first reason is it creates fear, and the second reason is can make the picture look more real. I use the curves to reduce the exposure, and also use the color balance tool to make sure that the white balance of each material looks similar.
I like how cohesive everything is, but I would maybe add like, since it looks like it's storming, maybe like some rain or bigger waves.
Anybody else?
I think you did a really good job. Like as you were describing, like blending the color of everything else and the monster to make it really look like it's part of the image. The one thing I suggest though is you kind of got a lot of room to play with, like just how big the mouth of the monster is, I feel like you could add a couple things, or maybe look like he's kind of like sucking things in, or maybe he's even like kind of like drawing the boat closer or drawing it deeper into the ocean.
Cool. And we have Lauren's gonna knock hers out as well before class is over.
So I would like to preface this. Mine is nowhere near done. I just didn't have the mental capacity this week to do it. But basically there's going to be like alien, term used very loosely, idealistic society. Like no war, no corona, especially. Yeah, that's the best way I can describe it.
I don't understand what you mean that it's not finished. If I want to add something, I would add something at the top left as I see.
Yeah, in the top left, I plan to add some form of structures. I'm not sure yet. I'm really playing around with like the image sizes right now. So
I really like the purple, like the colors all really work well together. And I see like the road you have reminds me of like Dorothy, like the yellow brick roads. And that whole idea of like utopian society and things like that. The only critique I would say is maybe in terms of like just blending things more cohesively together. And I know you said you're not done, but that's something that I would just add.
Hey, Ren, do you have any specific questions for us?
not that I can think of. Yeah, I literally searched up Yellow Brick Road, Wizard of Oz for the road.
All right, well, we've lost people and got some, I asked a few people to hold back on some feedback just so we can leave time for others who haven't chimed in. But so we didn't cover Kayla and Michael, right? You guys?
I went today.
Oh, wait, Kayla, we did yours?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll have to just revisit the video. I didn't mark anything down. And then Michael, we didn't do yours. So yeah, I guess Michael, if you wanted to stick around for a second, everybody else is good to go, and I'll see you on Monday.
See you next week.
Yep.
Do you want
So
me to stay and walk through mine again, or just like is it just in the recording?
yeah, I have it recorded. I've just been trying to keep track of just like participation. So I when we were talking about yours, I must not have been taking down
It
notes.
might have been because mine was in the Photoshop, so you were like pulling it up. So maybe that's why.
Yeah, it's always one of those, how much caffeine have you had kind of thing.
I gotcha.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Yeah, Michael, so what state are you in? Are you feeling pretty good or?
I'm feeling all right. I didn't get much done from last class. Last class, we spent a good deal on mine, and I was just kind of taking those ideas into consideration and then doing some sketches going back to it. But what we saw on Monday is still what I have.
Okay, so we already did talk then a little bit.
Yeah, because I was basically asking for direction on where to go. So it was almost like a critique. I didn't really walk through the proposal. I can do that if you'd
Did
like.
Did I talk to you on Monday as well?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because I marked down that I talked to you last Wednesday, but okay.
Yeah, no, we talked Wednesday to I had
that makes me feel better that we didn't get to you then. But yeah, we can totally, if you get some stuff, we could take a look too on just ask for some open feedback on, on Monday coming up.
Yeah, I did get some on Monday and next Monday if you want to just run through mine real quick.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably a couple other people that missed that we could spend a couple minutes during class too, so we can catch up. Cool. All right, yeah, sounds good.
Yep. All right.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
You can take that.
Just with chicken breast? All right, everybody, what's going on? hello, hello, hello. We are going to, I already got this recording for today. We're going to be doing the critiques today, so hopefully everybody's got their images in. Last class I downloaded stuff, but I think I'll just do it right from Google Drive. And I'm just going to give us all a nice quick recap of expectations for today, and then also the Facebook follow-up kind of stuff. And hopefully we can get through everybody today, essentially. So let me start this off. And we have a large class, depending on how many people are going to be here. So I want to make sure I cover this quickly so we can get started. So I suppose I'll probably cover the photo or the Facebook kind of thing first, because the expectations there are basically the same for, kind of in class. The only difference is like you're going to be typing that stuff on your own time, right? So it's a little different to type it out than it is just to say. But in essence, what I normally like to make sure everybody knows before we go into our first critique is that there's different types of feedback that are available. And I find it best that if I relate to you all, like the different ways that these different types of feedback, it all helps everybody be a little bit more specific and therefore more productive, right, for our chats. So in general, there's just positive and negative feedback. And then each of those also have either, you could specify them as being specific or unspecific. So positive, specific, positive, unspecific, right? So you could tell somebody, hey, your work sucks. Well, that's negative, unspecific, right? Doesn't help anybody, and it's not really tolerated in most cases, right? That's a pretty extreme example, but even positive, unspecific is also not really helpful. It's nice to say, like, oh, your work's cool. Okay, well, what about it, right? The whole point today is to try to get as much feedback as we can from everyone. So keep those things in mind. The way it will work today is I'm pretty much just going to start a timer for 5 minutes. So as soon as I get an image up, whoever's image it is, I'd like for you to just give us that quick, updated statement, like less than a minute overview, as well as any relevant concerns or questions you might have, right? Kind of directing your peers to help you out in the ways that you need help, if you have any, right? And then from that point on, we'll have like 4 minutes of kind of chatter. And just so you all know, I am keeping track of conversations, right? Like who's actually participating. So as the class goes on, if you felt like you've already delivered a lot of feedback, try to just hold off, let some space for other people to chime in. I think that's it. Anybody have questions? So it's just going to go quick. I will try to keep that timer going, because then if I don't, what ends up happening is we run over and not everybody gets to go. So we'll try our best here. Yeah, so I want to ask if everybody could get their webcams going as well, if you don't already. I can't remember. I'm going to try to keep all the webcams, all your thumbnails on the side. I think those pick up in the video recordings. Does anybody watch video recordings? Can you see all the windows? Okay, great. Yeah, this way everybody's kind of presented. I know that a few of you, is anybody here using like an external or a camera's like to the side or a second monitor or something like that? Or is like the camera right in front of you? Pretty much everybody, right? Yeah, so the expectation is like, as we're going along with the class, like everybody should be engaged, you know, because we're all presenting our work. We all want feedback from each other, just a courtesy. So keep that in mind. Oh, I was under the right folder. Oh, I'm under the wrong section still. Back another one. 2. Okay. So we'll just go on down. All right. Whenever you're ready, Alexander. Here?
Yeah, so with my project, I'm kind of showing off like a portal to a nature area next to this sort of rundown industrial area of like modern society, that sort of thing. I still need to polish it up a lot, but I'm not sure whether I need anything else in it or not.
Rundown society in what context? Maybe a little bit more.
Sort of like modern society, all sorts of like all the like pollution and industry we create nowadays, and we like destroy nature for it basically, and there's none of it left.
Yeah, the way he describes it real quick in his statement is like the modern choking of industrial society.
Yeah.
Cool. What do you guys think?
Something that you could add to that fact of destructive society. Oh, sorry, maybe on the road, a Hummer, because those are the worst cars possible.
Yeah, that's true. Just
I really
including
like,
cars.
sorry, I really like the amount of depth you have with like the different factories, like one on top of another on top of another. Like, I think it really shows how plagued the society is with all the pollution and industrialization and stuff. And I really like it.
Thank you. Yeah, it was kind of layering them on top, so it's just sort of like all these just industry areas just stacked on top of each other.
I really like the window, like looking into the like natural world, but I feel like it would be helpful if you made it more emphasis on it. It's like it's there, but if you could get some more emphasis to like show that that's like a focal point of the piece, that would help a lot, I think.
What suggestion could you might give for that if you were to approach it, Oakley?
Well, in my project, I've been doing a lot of like, I forget exactly what it is, but it's like kind of like an outer glow almost. I've been doing on like the TV and stuff, so I think that could maybe help.
I think a big thing that'll help in the long run is just like sources of light and stuff. So like if that window just like was a huge source of light and like there was a bunch of shadows like everywhere else, would emphasize a lot, and it would like help with your depth of all the buildings, of like how far back they are with different shadows and stuff. I'm assuming you just like haven't got to there yet.
I should probably do something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna advise maybe just play around with the size. You know, like everything else is way bigger in contrast to the little window. So it's like it kind of you don't look at that immediately. What I looked at first was the industrial, you know, all the buildings and stuff, and then just scanning everything else, I see like a window with the garden. So maybe you should emphasize it using size. I would like suggest that. Maybe make it a little bit bigger.
All right. Yeah, I think that's smart.
Another thing is like maybe you could like make that kind of like the other side more like dystopic, like probably like the sky darker, or like kind of I don't know, but you get what I'm kind of saying. Like
yeah, I think I get it.
Yeah.
Hey, Alexander, I think the building showing the nature side could be a little bit more updated. So seeing
it's a
as
little low res, I think I need to change it out.
Yeah, right. But what I mean is like maybe you could like upload like a new building that looks like more modern, like newer, kind of eco-friendly rather than like brick, because I'm getting vibes from like the factories, being the same as the building on the right.
Maybe, yeah.
I almost wonder if to help it stand out a little more without calling too much attention to it, so it still stays a little subtler. Maybe you add over vegetation, so some of the green from the inside's like dripping out. This way, it's a little bit more
Also, like
green
vines
on
and
that
stuff.
side. Yeah.
Yeah, that might be smart actually.
I was also going to say that maybe to help differentiate between the factories in the back and then also like that building in particular, give like a sense of depth. Like maybe you can maybe like darken the building in the foreground just a little bit so that it gives that impression that it's closer to the viewer than the like buildings in the background.
Mm. Got to do something like that.
Awesome. Any last comments? So the one I'm kind of going all over the place, still situating for this class. If this window is kind of breaking out, kind of come on, zoom. If everything else is more or less kind of more realistic, and this window is kind of tapping into another perspective, another realm, that sort of thing, like this fantastical focal point. It's also then wondering, are there other areas of the image that you could also replicate that notion, right, in different ways, obviously. It's just a thought. If you're using that kind of principle in one area, could you then use a stack over here, and the stack is doing something in that way, or so just a thought. Yeah, great. This is, if you guys look later, huge contrast already in getting conversations going. So kudos over the first class. All right, we got Becca.
Hi. So my project is supposed to show how people tend to use social media to ignore problems in the real world, and they, like, influencers post on social media only the most idyllic parts of their life, and it's all handpicked, manicured, and it doesn't really show what's actually going on. So I made a bit of a more exaggerated version, kind of in the style of like a video game, which could also be used as a way to escape real life problems, where you either choose to face the horrors of reality or choose one of these metaphorical pills of how you will escape reality today using social media. And yeah, it's not done. I still have to polish it. And I want to maybe add more things in the background to make it look a bit more horrible. I kind of like how barren it is right now, but I feel like it's missing just a little bit more. But for the most part, the majority of my content is here.
Yeah, so I definitely think adding more stuff to the background could definitely help, because right now it kind of reads as if choose your escape is between the house and the death, and not so much between which pill you want to take.
Mm-hmm. I was considering that for like maybe another idea. Like it would be either you die, you choose one of these pills, or you something else. But I haven't really come up with one that like strikes me as good enough yet. So I might just make the background really like not pleasant, and it's just, oh, you choose one of these or death.
I feel like you could maybe make the pills look more enticing, like if there was like glow around them or something, to make it more likely, like, yeah, I'm going to choose one of these compared to everything else.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Something that I think of when like because it's two hands, and again, as like Bernard mentioned like last time, it resembles like the Matrix with the red pill, blue pill. Maybe if like the hands were just like together, instead of like looking like two options, it was just all like that was your options, like you're holding all of them at once, instead of being like Because sort of what I think now is like with the two hands is like one option is death and one option is the house. But like if they were together, it would like more show that it was like the pills versus like the outside, I guess.
Okay, yeah, that was my original idea, but I was trying to do this morning in like a rush, and I didn't have anyone. Those are my hands. I didn't have anyone to take a picture, so I had to like individually take a picture of one hand and then the other. So if I can get someone that can like take a picture, I can take a picture of them. That'll be a lot easier. I just was running out of time, so I was like, sure, two hands for now. But yes, thank you. If that is a better idea.
Most phones have timers on them now, right? Photo timers.
Yeah, I just didn't know how to like set it up, so
No
I
worries.
still wanted it from that angle.
Hold the camera in your mouth.
You know, maybe might just have to do that.
You can also get a tripod, you know. Yeah. The professor's showing it.
If I can find one of those, I might just steal my roommate later and be like, hey, take a picture of my hands.
I think for the background, maybe putting in some more real world problems, because you can escape, like you're using this to escape death, but maybe some problems that either we have as teenagers or older adults, just what we're escaping life.
Okay, thank you.
One thing that might help as well, you said it's meant to be more like a game. I wonder if maybe you put like a highlight or a stroke around the hands. So it's like, oh, you're selecting the hands as your escape. So it starts to read as one option.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. This was like the last thing I did, and I did it really quickly knowing I'll come back to it. So I like don't have enough work in that I like would be content with them. So that would be a good idea to add those in.
Yeah, that almost puts it into context, like thinking more about like we're looking at a user interface, perhaps.
Yeah, so I was wondering if I should like fully commit to making it be like a video game and have like the little health bar in the corner, like inventory or stuff. But I don't know. I'm not quite sure if I want to do that yet. I might mess with it and see if I like it.
Yeah, I would suggest just try to keep your project simple. Like try not to overdo it, because like this project has like what you have so far. It has so many possibilities. So you just wanna target, pinpoint what exactly you want to do. Like just settle down on that idea and then just do it. You know, because there's like so much things you can do right now. You know, you could change up the background. You can put a game user interface and all that stuff. So just try to sit down on it and you know, keep it simple.
Thank you.
So I think what you're getting at, Mohammed, in terms of telling her to keep it simple, are you referring to like locking down the concept to more of a singular kind of component?
Yeah, exactly. Like just like instead of brainstorming too much about it, just try to figure out what you want to do and then stay on that and just, you know, focus on everything that you need to do to keep, you know, keep that.
It is a challenge, right?
I definitely have my main idea. It's just like the little like fine details that I'm like so indecisive with that I keep changing around. So once I just find something that I like, I'll stick with it and it'll work out.
Yeah, so the couple things to note, yeah, thanks everybody. Couple things to note here moving forward for the rest, everyone. It just depends on your person too. It's best after you deliver your kind of overview. Everybody else try to refrain from like too many in-depth questions. And then if we're looking at your work, also try to refrain from like too much of your own thoughts, because we want to try to get you as much feedback as we can, right? And other thing is, I don't know, we've talked a little bit about different tools and such. So there are different approaches we could be taking, and this is kind of like the underlying, other than the actual theme of the content. The other thing we should be thinking about is the structure, visual structure. And this, as of right now, kind of seems like that simulacrum-based graphical, right? Graphical. And I guess those are questions to be asking, like, are we thinking about staying with this graphical approach, and then, you know, tend some of those considerations to that, or maybe then we found out, oh, it's not going to be graphical, and then we give considerations towards different ways of using masking and different layer blending and that sort of thing. But yeah, no, besides those very more specific starters, I think everything's going pretty well. Let's go. All right, we're up to Dante.
So in my project, I'm looking to show, can you guys hear me? You guys,
Yep.
okay, good. I'm looking to show that his current reality is not what he thought it was, and it's crumbling around him, but his escape from it is also very unknown. And I know that I need to add more, and I need to add a picture that I took, but I'm just stuck on what to add to show the current emotion that I'm trying to tell.
So is he like escaping towards a better place through that portal there, or what?
So he's definitely escaping, but like there, like certain realities we don't know. It's uncertain as you grow up. Like you don't know what the future holds.
Like something you could put something in that door to make it more obvious. But if it's like uncertain, you could put like a question mark or something, just so it's, because just the black is a little like ominous, I think.
Like you said that you want the idea of it to be like it's like unknown.
Yes. So his current reality is crumbling around him, but the reality that he's escaping toward, he doesn't know what lies in there either.
I feel like a really good way of maybe like conveying that idea might be to like get a shadow, like put the door even though it's all dark already, like to try and add a shadow that like comes in and slowly fades out towards him. So that like maybe add like a light inside of that door. It's like unknown, like what the light source is or whatever it is.
Okay.
Just so it feels like it's obscure and that there's something there that might or may not be better, but at least there's something like to look forward to.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I know what Jal is trying to say. It's like basically try to get a glow out of the door from like a three-dimensional point of view, so it looks like it's going towards the person, and it looks like it's like a little light source in the overall darkness, you know, that little light of hope. Basically you're referring to that. And I gotta just say from my own critique, I like how you put the shadow of the person. It makes it look like the background is like a flat, you know, paper. So like his shadow is like kind of going up against it. And for the door, I think you should move it a little bit closer towards the stairs so that it doesn't look like it's just floating like in the open like that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, but that glow, you should really do that because then it will just highlight a lot.
I really like the way that you have like the world crumbling around him, but I wonder if there's like a way you can make it a little more obvious that it's like kind of like crashing down around him. I mean, like I can tell, but I don't know if I was looking at this without like your proposal in front of me, it might be a little bit harder to tell.
Definitely. I think either some cracks in the wall or something like that.
Yeah, that could be really cool.
I almost wonder, I don't know if you've ever played Minecraft and like you've seen like a chunk that's just an error and there's a giant void, like a giant square void.
Yes. Okay.
I wonder if you could do that in the ocean where there's just a giant square chunk taken out of the ocean somewhere and it's just void, just straight down. It's just missing.
Definitely.
You could try like maybe adding like debris of something, like stuff like maybe like falling and like landing in the ocean, or like some sort of wreck floating by.
I think the ocean it's just a very blank space right now, but it could be useful to add a bunch of stuff to it.
I kind of like how blank it is. I think it would benefit you to have like a few random chunks of whatever like floating in it, but I like how like vast and empty it is for like getting the point of like this world is like really uncertain and like falling apart, and we don't know what's in the next world either. Like I think the vastness of it is still really effective.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I also see like I kind of see it as like you can interpret it your own way. Like I kind of see it as like the knowing of the past versus like the uncertainty of the future. So I kind of like how vague it is, but like it would be cool if you can like add some more random things.
Yes.
I actually think it'd be really cool if you used a dissolve like effect on the left for the TV screen, because it would almost look like it's like fading away behind him as he walks like towards the hallway or the doorway.
Yes.
Or
Okay.
and then yeah, almost make like the doorway almost kind of look like an empty hallway. I feel like that would be really cool.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, this is mine, and so for mine, I was trying to do what like the world would look like, almost like with if we didn't take like elections so seriously, and we were, you know, that I don't know what the word is, but like attentive to our world. And I was gonna use a lot of this. There's a lot of black squares. I'm gonna fill them in with different. They're gonna be like perspectives of other countries, of like the results of like us not taking like elections not so seriously. But I'm trying to figure out how I want to do that. So I might take it into a different document, and then I'm gonna edit each of those. Like I do something like, I don't know. I would show like other cities and like other countries, basically what would be happening like it is right here.
I was gonna ask if they'd be watching or like, it'd be the same exact scene.
I was gonna do like some that were like live TV footage type things, like on the screen, and then the other would be like news panels, almost like, and it would like almost like say in like big bold text. But I'm just trying to figure out how to do that right now.
I think it could be really cool if one of the panels you put like a campaign poster of like one of the like celebrities that is president, just so you can kind of get a more clear sense of like how the world got to how it is.
That's a great idea. I should actually do that.
I think in the streets, if you add some people either running around chaotically or just to add some filler into the street.
Yeah, I had actually taken a lot of the people out of the photo, but usually because they're like walking around like pedestrians. But that's actually a really good idea. I could put in some like panicking crowds or something.
Or like a protest, probably like of like the celebrity that's running for president or something.
Yeah, that's actually really good. Wow. Thank you.
One thing you could do, because I know you said you wanted to have the screens maybe show different countries as well as like live footage. Maybe you can overlay like a camera UI over the screen. This way it looks like it's Times Square is being recorded as well as one of those places.
Oh, that's actually kind of good. That would almost be like a I don't know how to describe it, but like a Matrix type thing where you're looking at what's already there.
That may also help you like show like how it's about election. Maybe there's like a file name on top that says like election 2019 Kanye versus Kim or something like that.
Yeah.
One area I like to try to coax you guys about thinking about as well is there's a lot of areas where he's interjecting pieces, right, and placing things in straight up like sharp edge montage. But as of right now, we have a very kind of almost static single background, right? It's like more of a stock image, right?
Yeah.
So in thinking about that, do you guys have any thoughts towards building in something else to get away from that?
I think the protesters could help. Maybe you could add like some, I guess, flyers or something floating around the air, like just campaign papers for them as well, just to fill it up a little bit more so it feels a little bit more created of a space.
Yeah, I was gonna have like I was gonna edit almost like tiny newspaper flyers that would be like in the street, but now that I have the like I was gonna do the TV thing, I was probably gonna do it like somewhere bigger, but that's actually really close to what I was gonna do. Yeah. So thank you.
And talking about
I would
these,
also
go ahead.
Oh, okay. I would also suggest that maybe you can put like helicopters behind the buildings over there in the like the middle to right hand side, that one building that's like just there. You could probably put like helicopters in the like on both sides of it to like show that there's like chaos. Maybe there's like helicopters reporting other protests and from like a sky view or something like that, or maybe even planes. Just to show that there's chaos in the air too.
Yeah, that's actually really good because I was gonna try to do something with like I was gonna make the buildings almost look like they were damaged or something, so I could do something with that.
So in terms of as of right now, everything's kind of more or less keeping the situation more realistic, I think, right? There's also that option, since we're dealing with Photoshop and we have all these capabilities, like maybe stemming out to visualizing something that doesn't really exist, but it could be also helping advance the image and conveying an idea. So for instance, if you have all this stuff on these screens, the notion of like flyers was mentioned, and that could be shown up pretty large, for instance, if you really wanted to. But then if you start blending that in with the background, it starts to be kind of weird, right? In context of everything else that looks real. So my thought went to these screens. If you're presenting different content on these screens, maybe there's like auras stemming out from the screens, and that kind of branch out into like this cognitive space could be relating to whatever the content is on that particular screen. Is it clashing with everything around it? Is our focus going into it? Could help to branch out into like break that barrier between everything needs to be straight cut real, So some thoughts. Great.
Thank you.
Howdy. So for mine, I'm trying to basically discuss how a lot of architecture these days have a focus on let's make the world better, like a greener, better space that brings people together. And ultimately in the process, they're not fixing anything. And if anything, they're kind of ignoring the issues.
You muted yourself.
That would be helpful. So basically, basically my thing is trying to show how architecture these days are trying to show how they're trying to make the world better, a greener place that brings people together. And doing so with these concepts, they're not really solving the problem. In fact, if anything, they're ignoring it or making it worse. That's kind of the long and short of it.
I think it'd be really helpful if between the lines, like, or the two images, you like put almost a barrier or something in the way. I'm not sure like what yet, but I feel like you could think of something like almost like symbolic of what can like separate them.
Yeah, I definitely still have to figure out that the juxtaposition line a little bit more.
You could probably
What
put something like a
exactly?
barbed fence or something in between them. Something like showing, like keeping out like the bad from the good areas or whatever.
That could work.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what exactly is the composition that you're trying to fulfill through your project?
So it's the sort of like rendering on top of like an architects would produce, and then juxtaposing on the bottom the reality that's out there, such as like pollution, protests, homelessness. You know,
No,
human
I
rights being
meant
broken.
sorry to cut you off, but the composition I meant, like, is it supposed to be photorealistic? Is it supposed to be graphic, fantastic? You know,
Definitely more of a graphic approach. The top is at least more meant to be like architecture rendering looking. Like I rendered that building myself, so it's meant to look more like a rendering that like an architect would produce.
mhm. So then in that case, I would like probably suggest maybe trying to play around with some blending modes. Maybe try to make it more like each side is more blended with each other. Like the images are more blended together so that it seems like they're two separate photos, even though they do already look like they're two separate photos. So just so like it makes it more like flow, like it feels more it doesn't feel so linear, you know, like with the family on the left for the architecture side. It looks kind of, you know, it doesn't look like it's fitting, kind of looks off a little bit. Maybe you can just play around with it a little bit. Also on the bottom, you know, the trash, I think that's the garbage and stuff, right?
It's a scene of like homeless tents and stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the tents, you know, it looks kind of too sharp, kind of rigid. It doesn't look like it. It looks like you just like took pictures and then you just slapped it on top of each other.
I do have a question. I want this to be opened up to everybody except Andrew. So as of right now, he's got this picturesque, you know, idyllic imagery at the top, and that is deliberately on top of these other scenes, right? So in that visual hierarchy, it's already above. Do you think that it's helping in any way to have this upside down? And if so, what is that doing for the image?
I kind of like that it's upside down. I get that it might make it harder to see or like harder to understand. Like we didn't realize that those were like homeless tents. But I think it like shows that society puts more of a focus on, look, this is greener, look, this is like more helpful to the environment. And it like shows how on the flip side, the the all the social problems are like kind of being ignored. Like I think even if it makes it a little more confusing to see, you can still piece out what the problems are in the bottom image. And I think it shows that it's like this isn't on the forefront and this isn't totally shown in its full upright image that it should be in society.
Yeah, I like what you said, how you contexted it as the flip side, right? Cool, let's keep moving. We have Jade.
Hi. So for like my project, I wanted to show like the different views of kind of New York City that everyone kind of has. And I kind of wanted to put in like the bottom people with like 3D glasses watching like the Brooklyn Bridge, but like, I couldn't find like a stock image facing that way. But like I incorporated like kind of styles from like New York artists like such like as the pop art kind of view, like from Andy Warhol and like, you know, Spider-Man and Thor from Stan Lee. And I kind of wanted to make it like I kind of want to make it more chaotic in a way, and I really don't know how. So that's kind of what I'm hoping hoping to find in feedback. And yeah.
If those glasses are meant to be 3D glasses, then maybe changing one lens to blue and then one lens to red to kind of portray that a little bit better. Are you looking to add anything else inside the frames of the glasses?
Yeah, but I'm not really sure what to add. I feel like if I add more Avengers, I feel like that would work, but I really don't know. I kind of want like I don't know, like not like a messy kind of way, but like, you know what I mean? Like just more things that just really stand out. Yeah.
Wait, so you want to make the inside of the lens look chaotic as a part to the outside of it, or is it the other way around?
Like I kind of like represented like the colors outside of the glasses as like just kind of the chaos of like New York City. I kind of also twirled the clouds a little bit because there was just like a regular photo, but like I wanted like a specific kind of look inside the glasses, and I'm really not sure how to incorporate that.
Or what exactly do you want to, like, what kind of look exactly do you want inside the lens?
Kind of like more chaotic than it is outside.
More chaotic, okay.
Yeah, like a different kind of view.
Well, then you can probably even put villains then, you know, like the superhero fighting the villains to show like there is an opposition against two characters on each side. So maybe like Spider-Man versus Venom or Green Goblin, and then, you know, Thor. I don't remember what his one is. I think it's Ragnarok or something. But yeah, like, you know what I'm saying, right? Like you could probably just show their rivals.
Thank you.
Oh, you go.
I was thinking that if you want it more chaotic, like within the lens, maybe you can like twirl the bridge, like how you twirled the clouds, because then it would be like different from outside. Like it would look normal, like New York City, but it would just be like a contrast.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest something along those lines. If not, then maybe trying to like take the same, like you say, you want it to be a little bit more chaotic inside, like to maybe take the same colors that you have like outside of the box and maybe try and, not the box, but the glasses, try and make them smaller and like more, I don't know how to describe this, but basically add more boxes of color within the lenses, like within the frame of the lenses, so that it looks like there's a lot more happening, and maybe randomize it more, play around with effects, like what Christine just suggested, swirl that around maybe to help give that sense of like chaos in the lenses.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, I definitely think the backgrounds should be different inside the lens than out. Maybe you could even like desaturate the outside a little bit, just to make it more obvious that things are happening in the lens as opposed to outside.
Yeah,
like
so
those allergy commercials.
Yeah, just like that.
So this is bringing up the general chatter towards the end here about the this inside outside contrast that you normally would have with like a lens, or, you know, presenting a lens as that frame or lenses. So my question real quick, if anybody could quickly comment, except Jade, wondering if anybody has a sense of what do you think the glasses themselves represent?
Movies. Maybe movies. You watch movies and you just enter a different world.
Like seeing New York City through the lens of media or something.
Or I
Something
was
like
thinking
that.
maybe like somebody that's very imaginative and can kind of see stuff that isn't really like there.
This is like some kind of escape, or
Oh, you muted yourself.
So yeah, sorry. So not everybody's exactly on the same page, right? They're all kind of like slightly different topics around some centralized kind of concept. So maybe yourself landing on exactly what that might be might help influence exactly what the rest of the image is doing. Because then if you could also, I have another person, another class too, doing this. If you could then also, if it's important enough, state that in your project statement, like the glasses represent this, and then that'll help us context everything. And maybe depending on what they are supposed to be doing, it doesn't look like you've directly modified too much inside versus outside. So there's still a chance to potentially use a different pair of glasses, right? Change the angle at which they're coming in because of the context of what they're standing for, or what's going on in the image. Because they could kind of be like the middle ground, so to speak, right? And then you could have stuff even in front of them. It just all depends. And I think landing exactly on what those could mean might help factor the rest of that in.
Thank you.
Jetty.
So I had a change from my original proposal. It was supposed to be like a SWAT team, but like it's more of the creation, and the dino god is like giving the chickens like power to become humans, and, like the role reversal. So like the chickens are actually like Colonel Sanders.
What I'm wondering is like the chickens like clearly have the heads of Colonel Sanders, but is that like necessary, or could they just be like normal people? Because it's like it's not just like one chicken that like we all eat. It's a bunch of chickens, so it could be like a bunch of different types of like people who are then these chickens now, and not just only Colonel Sanders.
Well, yeah. Well, he is the one like selling their species in like a ridiculous amount of. I'm just getting like a brain thought here. Just in a ridiculous amount. So I thought it was kind of appropriate.
One small detail I noticed is that at the KFC store like logo, maybe you could change Colonel Sanders's face for like a chicken with a suit. Kind of emphasize your point on, you know, a reverse world.
You said right here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you did go for that, I think we mentioned something about that before. I don't think you need to necessarily just keep it restricted to this small space. You know, you could blow it up or do whatever you need so it looks more like it's representing the whole, or more drawing more attention.
This is kind of like a thought, but maybe since like this is kind of like an inverted thought, like the chicken is now like selling the Colonel Sanders, maybe you could like try inverting the colors of the KFC. Just I don't know, like just something to mess around with. I don't know.
Another thought is to fill in space. I would say like in the parking lot area, you could add some like chicken humanoid like vehicles into the parking lot. Even some of them walking into KFC.
That sounds like a good idea. I was actually like planning on having more colonels, like, but that sounds better.
So maybe more dino angels in the sky. they're pretty fun to look at. So just filling up the
Yeah,
sky with more of
definitely.
them.
Yeah. And like the text is like temporary for now. Like I was like planning on having like more of a cartoonish like comic book text box right here.
I think just because like you're not doing a lot with the KFC like building currently, you might like you could just change the scale of it or just like looking for a different image to then like reorganize how much stuff you can really like put in that area and like play with. Because like right now it's just the building and not many things to like fully work with unless you want to like put the building on fire or something.
I almost wonder, this might be a lot to ask, if you could change the C in KFC to KFH.
What would the H stand for?
Human, because the chickens are
Oh,
so.
Well, I thought about leaving it because like Colonel Sanders, like the C, and like my Photoshop skills are like terrible. I'm just starting, so I don't know how to do that.
All right, that's fair
So
enough.
maybe I'll research into it more because I got 2 more weeks.
The other thing I try to strive, or I have you guys strive to stay away from, within reason if you can, is using type. And not that you can't use it. I don't know why this does this. Is that we will be really focusing hardcore on it next project. So, you know, I would advise always trying to think of more visual. But if you are going to keep it, my thought could be that maybe like a text bubble, you know, from like the dinosaur. I'm assuming it's this dinosaur that's saying that, right?
Yep.
Right. So kind of give that more of a context, like it's coming from him, or there's a variety of ways you can go about that.
Yeah, that's for like a bit of a like placeholder for now.
Yeah. All right. So we'll cover John, and then maybe we'll take a couple minute break.
All right, so for this piece, I really wanted to exemplify what a future would look like for humans after they depleted their resources and kind of went into war. And I mean, the end result was just Earth being inhabitable. So, you know, one of the main reasons with that backstory being is that technology kind of became a destroyer and a savior at the same time. And now, due to that reason, you know, humans are in a moon station, you know, living their life out. And as you can see here, we have a normal person, you know, just going about their day. And he's kind of like strapped into some VR device that's, you know, projecting like an image of a beach, like a paradise island where like he would rather be right now. And obviously he can't because he can no longer go back to Earth. And yeah, I just try to make this as futuristic as possible. The windows are kind of like holograms, like kind of like, you know, different features of the spaceship or the space station. And then in the back, you can see like the main base of the moon station. So that was my idea with it. I definitely want to, you know, just kind of do some like color matching within all layers because I kind of want to set the mood for the image. It's a little bit bright right now, so maybe I'll play around with that.
I feel like you could definitely just try to make it more obvious that the Earth is ruined. Like if you change the color to be more brown and added more like ruined stuff to it, and also make it a little bigger because it's kind of small right now, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I try to like place it in the distance, but I could definitely open up the room, open up the windows. My one thought with that was, you know, before even submitting this project, I didn't really have that hologram on the left window. So like you kind of just saw the Earth more clearly. Maybe I could just remove that again. Or I could go with the route of adding like more fire, more destruction.
think maybe on the inside of that person's pod, maybe like putting pictures of family members or pictures of what life used to be. I know it's kind of far away, but like a picture of his wife maybe, or stuff like that.
That's a great idea. I could definitely do that by, scaling that picture up, and then I guess adding those images, they'll probably be noticeable.
Personally, I really like the way the aesthetics of your image. Like you did a really good job on just making a high quality, image. But one suggestion I would say is maybe give some reference of the time period. Like everything does look futuristic, but maybe even if you say like somewhere on the holograms, or like maybe some 3D imaging about like Elon Musk reaches Mars or something like that, giving some real life hints of the future, like maybe even some crazy predictions of your own if you want, just to give that crazy vibe of this is what the future could end up being like. That would be really cool. That would go a long way.
I like that idea. Yeah. Maybe I could just put some like old newspapers on the floor, or, pieces of evidence, kind of like just, foreshadowing what happened, or not foreshadowing, but like kind of just stating what happened in the past.
Yeah. Like, on the sides of the picture, on the walls, maybe you can have like a 3D. You'll have to play with the blending mode, obviously, or even the opacity, but like maybe put like a news article of, 2021, the coronavirus got cured or something like that, like stuff like that.
For sure.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I'll do that.
Play around with it because, futuristic stuff, you can get away with, opacity and blending modes.
I agree.
So in this image, is it like, is he like the only one on the moon, or are there others just like him, like everybody's living on the moon?
I would say there's more like him. I would say most of the human population, well, the one that was left, had to, migrate to the moon. So my idea with this was just, having like a forced perspective of like you're seeing what one person's life is in the moon.
Yeah. I just like a suggestion is maybe if you wanted to convey that like other people are on the moon with him, you could take this, like what he's seeing in the center panel, maybe move it to the right, and then through the center panel have like other pods that people are living in. Just like a thought, maybe.
Yeah. Like that. I like that idea. There was like a walk-in, because I got the backdrop, which is like the moon landscape. There was like an astronaut like walking in that landscape, so like you could kind of see him like in the distance, but I ended up like erasing him, and like I don't know, but maybe I should add him back. It's a good thought.
All right. Yeah, why don't we just take a couple-minute break? You guys can get some blood flowing, get some of our energy back. Go pet some puppies. Oh, you puppy dog. Oh, hey, 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 hey. Oh, hey, hey. No jumping. Stay down. Stay down. Hi. Oh, here, good. They're being nice. They're being nice, puppy dog. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, is there a rope over that? Is there a rope? Oh, who's got that rope? Who's getting that rope? I'm getting that rope. Oh, I'm getting that rope. Get that rope. Get it, fellas. Get that rope. Get it. Get that rope, fellas. Get it. Get that rope. Get it. Get it, fellas. Get it. Get that rope. Get that rope. Get it. Get it. Good puppies. Get it. Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't mute myself. You guys heard me playing with some puppies. They are fart knockers. The one dog likes to just take everything and hoard it just to have, just so the other one doesn't have it. I feel like that's a lot of dogs. Who are we back up to? All right, we're going to be up to Christine. So wait another few seconds here. Is there anybody not on here that is going to be ready? Maybe some people that aren't here, but. So we have 16 people in the class right now, but only 14 in here. I'll ask again in a second, I guess.
So, how long does our feedback have to be? You know, the one that we post on Facebook.
Whatever, as long as you're following the guidelines.
Oh, so like basically, as long as we answer the questions that you like listed.
Yeah, you're just trying to give, just like we go over stuff today in class. It'll be like time to think a little bit more in depth on things and perhaps find some other components or aspects to be talking about that we might not have covered in class, right? Kind of extending upon. Yeah, so as long as you're just following through and answering those questions, I think that's pretty fine to me. If you do it very, very short, like as short as you can, it's kind of like poetry. It's going to be pretty hard, you know? So if you give it a little bit more of substance, it's usually a little easier to knock out. Okay, yeah, Christine, how about we jump start with you?
Okay, so mine is about perception. So the guy on the left, like his head is in the clouds and he's surrounded by social media and basically, yeah. And the person on the right is more down to earth. They're talking more about like real world problems like oil, war, and everything like that. My background, I feel like it's very cut and paste. And I'm not liking it. I'm kind of new to Photoshop, so I still got a couple weeks to figure it out. But yeah, I'm open to suggestions on how to fix that.
I feel like you could use a better photo of the guys, because like the guy on the left is like cut off.
Yeah, I actually just put that in there because I was actually going to take a picture of like two people I know like shaking hands and like scan that in. But I just put that there just like to show something.
I think you could just kind of have the backgrounds fade with like a transition between the two of them. Right in the middle there.
Yeah.
Maybe have the clouds like blending into the fire so it like changes.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You can maybe even change the font, make it more, because this font looks a little bit too formal. Maybe make it look more dramatic or, you know, like war type, I guess. Something like more war based. I'd probably just go for something more dramatic. You know, this font just looks like it's like a substitute for something more fitting for the image.
Yeah.
So for the image, is it showing that the two sides are friends or are they not going to be friends?
I put it more like an unlikely friendship. So it's like on his side, it's kind of his perception, like what he sees of the world. Like they are friends, like they're shaking hands. But maybe I should like try to see if they could like blend together in a way.
You could almost like put more weapons behind their back or something to show like maybe they're not friends with each other. Like on the social media side, you could have something regarding like cancel culture or something to show like they're shaking hands, but maybe they want to destroy the other, I guess.
Yeah, you can like add more things regarding the social media, like say like fake news or like other social media apps like TikTok and such kind of.
If you want to like say more that they're friends, you might like if you could find like sort of like a Venn diagram, like find the middle stuff and put it between them. Because like if they're shaking hands, like you have things on each side. If you could find something that's like a positive in both, put that in the middle. So it's like actual friendship.
Also regarding the background, maybe you could have the middle just be like a sort of neutral solid color area and that blends into like clouds and fire more towards like behind their back.
Yeah.
But have the middle just be like a solid color.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Since you said you plan on like scanning in like two people you know to do like to be the two people, do you plan on having them be in black and white as well, or would you have that in color?
I was thinking about either doing black and white or them wearing like a solid color, but yeah.
I think having the people in black and white works. It provides more of a contrast with them and the background and what is behind them. So I think that if you do keep it black and white, it would be a positive.
So the one thing I see here, I don't think it was talked about, unless I drifted off into my noggin here, is we have this harsh line right here. I don't know if this is necessarily staying or not, but there's also the harsh line here. But what's interesting is because we have this already setting that precedent, it almost starts to make this seem like dividing the image into like these panels. So
Yeah, I think somebody mentioned that I was thinking about blending it together or putting like a middle ground between them and then like kind of like feathering out into like fire and clouds. And for the people, I just kind of put them as a placeholder because I'm gonna find two people I know and like make them shake hands, take a picture, and like upload
yeah.
it from there.
Totally missed a bunch of that. But that is an interesting notion though, still to be like implementing your own structure, I suppose, right? Kind of like imposing your own geometrical based structure onto elements that aren't in that structure, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I guess it seems like you're going the other way, but that's fine. Let's continue. Michael.
All right, so I had to change my proposal from my original one, which was stock manipulation, which I'm gonna save for the next one. So for this one, I wanted to portray like how we're like basically addicts when it comes to our phones, and like when we don't have service or like Wi-Fi, it feels like it's the end of the world. So yeah.
I think in the background, if you add people on their phones, kind of like zombies or drones, to kind of combat that, how we are so addictive, and then you have the contrast with this one guy who's freaking out because he doesn't have signal, unless everybody doesn't have a signal, then that wouldn't work.
I think I'm trying to portray like there's no signal at all. Yeah.
I definitely think more people would be good showing them all like freaking out, but they're not freaking out because of the explosion. They're freaking out because their phones aren't working. Something like that.
Thank you.
Sorry to point it out, and like it's just so funny to me, but like there's a highway sign in the middle of the street. Like I just needed to point that out. That was just so funny.
I don't think it's necessarily bad, but I did want to bring up that notion that I don't think that I think we still read the image the same way without this sign.
Okay.
And if we are dealing with like this symbol-based imagery, like you have these different symbols here, and we can read them, like we know what you're saying without spelling it out. So do we necessarily need it to be spelled out here? So it could free up space to be doing other things. Like you could remove all of these sides of the building and do something completely different over here. I don't know. What do you guys think about, because the whole background, besides the sign, the whole background and the different elements, they all seem to be going together, and we all obviously can tell what's going on there. But this foreground, we have these elements up with chains. How do you guys see this and read this, and how do you think that plays into the contrast with the rest of the image?
I kind of seen it like we're chained to our phones and we're chained to social media in that sort of way. So that's why he's like freaking out that there's no signal. But yeah.
I guess I just almost wonder if there could be more people like him up front. Maybe not like a whole crowd, because that would start to block off a lot of the background. But maybe like a second person or someone else. It's like, oh my god, my phone has no signal.
Yeah. I'm probably gonna add like more people in the background and the foreground.
Yeah, I think earlier the professor was saying like getting rid of all the buildings on the right side and as well as the sign. I think that would just be like the most like perfect route to go on with it, because you just get so much more free space. I'm not sure what that thing is in the back. I think it's a nuke that went off. Is that one? Yeah, exactly. So it's like if you have all these buildings in front of it, it's kind of hard to tell. My first impressions, I thought it was a monster. I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was a monster. But then when I just look at the clouds, it just looks like a nuke. So maybe someone who isn't familiar with how nukes look, they probably would think that's something else. Maybe it's like a tree growing or something. So like maybe getting rid of all the building on the right side, or maybe even on the left side, and then shifting the nuke towards more in the like the far side in the back. Maybe shrink it a little bit just to show that there's like a perspective towards it, and then just giving like people, maybe like extend the street, maybe like add another picture of this like for the street, because when you get rid of the buildings, you're not going to have street anymore. So like you're gonna have to add more stuff to it, and then add the people there. It will just like you just be more depth to it, I feel like, and I think that would be the best way to go about it. Maybe even show like satellites falling from the sky just to indicate there's no signal and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I brought up the notion of like, taking away a chunk, because I guess the only reason I brought that up is that, you know, just like taking away the sign, we still could kind of get that almost the same meaning for the rest of the image, you know, if that was gone, like we still could kind of grasp. And second part of that is this all kind of seems like the same stock kind of photo, right? So by taking some of it out or bits of it out or doing something else with that side, it allows you to, you know, make some more changes to stock images. I guess the question that we didn't really get at, so I think maybe think about more, is everything is very almost realistic looking, except these chains. And I realize that they're speaking about they're being chained to the phone. But I guess the notion I'm bringing up is like, these are not actual objects. The chain is an actual object, but these are symbols, right? You want to actually see these things like this in the real world. So because you have broken that barrier and you're going that route, I'm wondering what other barriers, you know, other ways you can implement that kind of notion in other elements of the image. And I think that's primarily why I wanted to bring that up, was that there's a lot going on here that's not going on in other areas. And could you draw from that energy in some way?
Thank you.
Yeah. Yizhao.
So I just want to preface with the fact that I'm not done yet with a lot of it.
Yeah.
I still have to add textures and whatnot to the bees and all of them, and then see what I can do about the ground. I was thinking about adding I forgot what the flower was, but national flower, like the flowers of certain countries that are recognized as their like national flowers and somewhat. Also haven't added the drone like holding area where they have like all the what are they called, the bombs where they hold them under their wings. And I was also thinking about maybe holding, and I don't know if it would mess with the interpretation of the piece or not, but I was thinking about having the two bees on the side, like the two smaller ones on the sides remain the colors that they are, and then having the one that's in the main frame basically be like metallic. That way, like it doesn't have for anything like that. It just looks like a straight up drone, but shaped like a bee. And I still have to add like the American flag and other tags that they would have to identify them and whatnot. So yeah.
What or who are the bees attacking?
I didn't even say that, my fault. Well, the piece is mostly supposed to represent Western powers and how they attack. They tend to bomb and attack other nations, like usually in the Middle East or in parts of Africa, in the name of democracy. And the whole play on it is that the bees are really just like America is like a colony. Like bees go into different parts of the world and they set up colonies over there. This time they're set up in the form of bee-shaped drones, like as a guise of like, yeah, we're coming to help you, but in reality, it's mostly just to help establish ourselves and any political interests.
I'm sorry if I missed if you said it, but I was looking at your sketches and you said you were planning to put flags on the bees. Are you still planning on doing that to have them?
Yeah, I just haven't gotten to that yet.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Are you thinking of like adding more bees, like bee drones, kind of?
I was gonna leave it with 3. I feel like adding more would maybe mess with the composition. Like it would get too crowded as is. especially since there's like a lot going on of the explosions, all the different buildings, and then the fact that you have that main B taking up the center of the frame. So like in my head, at least, I thought that 3Bs would be good enough, at least in conveying that.
Yeah, I might get too busy with a lot of them.
Yeah, that's understandable.
You could always hint towards it if you think it'll help, like having a wing from off the side or an extra shadow on the ground.
Yeah, maybe like an army of bees, like just off screen. You could see a few more towards the back.
I could probably add a little bit more shadows towards the bottoms, and I definitely like the wing idea, adding that towards the side. So I think I'll play with that.
Again, I'm apologizing because I'm trying to multitask a bunch, but I don't. Did anybody talk about the background here? I'm kind of wondering because as of right now, it looks like it's all one stock image. I'm wondering how you guys think he could break this up, or yeah, like how is this image as is defining this, and how could he update it with something?
I think he said he's planning on adding like the flowers of different like places on like the bottom to like symbolize like that they're like trying to colonize that area, I guess.
Yeah, and the flower would be like I still like you said, still haven't added those in yet, but that would also further the point of like them like colonizing and pollinating, quote unquote, with their bombs and so on. But I forgot the name of the flowers, but would it be like specifically like the Palestinian national flower or the Somalian national flower and so on and so forth, and they would be like exaggeratedly big. That way it gets the point across. But if there's any other suggestions for like how to maybe further that point a little bit more, I'm definitely open.
Yeah, I think it's hard to know exactly like how the flowers are going to affect it. So maybe I can have further chats about it. There's two things that I'm kind of, one thing I'm concerned about is the flame here. It looks very pixelated. So I don't know if that's been talked about. That'd be good to maybe get a different image from, or yeah, probably just a different image. Because you could definitely tell even from this point that it's
right. That is pixelated.
And then the other thing is the ground is very much broken up into these grids. So maybe thinking in terms of what else is a grid, and maybe using the grids to create like more of a sense of like using it as a structure. So maybe some pieces you're replacing with others, or you're overlaying into certain pieces, or this grid of, top down could be like overlaid with a circuit board. I'm not saying do that. I'm saying like, you see how there's a parallel there, and you could create some kind of duality with that, with playing with the structures themselves. So I'd urge you just to think about maybe different ways you could be using that structure to your advantage in some way.
I'll definitely note that.
Okay, Mohammed.
All right, so basically from last class, I just well, actually, I'm not going to talk about last class. So basically, my project is about the state of flow, and I put an image of an artist fully in the state of flow, painting, surgeon, Michael Jordan, and the gamer. I haven't gotten to the gamer yet. I probably will get rid of the person in the back that's screaming towards the gamer, just to emphasize more. Like I wanted to keep him so that it shows that there's other things outside of him only, but the image itself looks choppy, and I'll probably just get rid of that. Right now, I'm looking for suggestions on what I can add to the surgeon and the gamer to show more in depth of flow, like show more focus, if that makes sense. and maybe even for the background of the artist, maybe something I can do to like highlight her more.
I think it might be better as far as the background goes if you had more like segmented areas, like if you put different segments in the background between each different idea, like behind the gamer or behind the surgeon, just so they're clearly like different things.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is like put them in their own bubble, sort of.
Yeah, like in their own like bubble kind of area.
Yeah, okay, I get that.
And then you could also like add in more stuff like behind the gamer in the same background, more like computers or consoles or whatever.
Okay.
I feel like you could maybe do something with the lower left part of the screen, like of the frame. The artist, whoever the woman is that's painting right now, like she's like centered in almost like, but just a little bit to the left. But I feel like there's like a little bit of like dead space towards the bottom left.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe add something like waves or something else to help like push that point of like ebb and flow.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think I get what you mean. Just get rid of that spot. Maybe zoom in on her.
That would also work too, right?
Okay.
You said you were like trying to look for like some ideas for behind the gamer and the doctor. I think like maybe behind the doctor you could have like types of awards you can be presented with as like a high, like a very good doctor, and then like behind like the gamer could just be like high score or like some sort of like championship that like some esports team won or something like around that. Because like you already have them doing their activities, and then like with like you can see with a Michael Jordan, you have like one of his awards in the back, so like kind of the same idea. You could have like what they've accomplished.
All right, okay.
Or maybe like a kind of like a view of a specific video game, maybe, or like what he's playing. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I was actually considering that, but I didn't know how I'm supposed to get it done because of the spot he's sort of kind of in. Maybe some suggestion if I should move them around or do something with them, or maybe do something else with the other pick. Maybe like move Michael Jordan somewhere else, whatnot.
I think you could probably move like Jordan like slightly, but like not too much, because it's like not to like overlap the artists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm actually gonna like do what Majal said, like kind of cut out the artist, get rid of that little black corner, zoom her in, put her more down to the bottom left corner. So like she's more centered towards where the black little dead space is. Just basically get rid of that and like zoom her in. And I really like what Alexander said about making them in their own bubble. Because right now, like the background is basically the artist's background. So I'm probably just gonna get rid of that background and then make them in their own bubbles.
If you keep any of the artist's background, you could add more cans of spray paint, because I just noticed the one can of spray paint sitting there. So you could be like, oh, the artist has a whole lot of supplies because she's in like the flow. So like add a ton more art supplies or cans of spray paint or whatever to show like how much she's working on it.
Oh yeah, that's really good. Yeah, thanks
Plus
for that.
used ones too, right? To show that she's been working.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
What is the building behind Michael Jordan?
Oh, that's supposed to be a mansion, like he was successful. He built his own mansion, I think in 2006 or 2008.
I'm not sure, because I like where this is going. I can't get a visual on like what these bubbles might be.
Oh, okay. What I meant by bubbles is more like I'm not gonna actually put them in bubbles. I'm gonna basically just put them in their own little spot on the screen. So like, you know how I have the surgeon, or more specifically, you know how I have Michael Jordan's everything for him? Like that I would just classify that as a bubble. I just move everything like a little bit to the left, as one of my classmates said.
Yeah, I was
And
thinking more like hard segmented edges or something, not necessarily like a bubble.
So like
Yeah.
right here
Separate it.
where we have Michael Jordan's body ends, that would be like where the computer would begin. There's not a space in between.
Just thinking like it could be a background, like an office or whatever, where he would be in, I guess.
Right. Yeah, because the
The hard
background's a
edge.
different. Yeah, I see. Okay.
yeah, so like they would be in their own environment, but it would be like a montage of all of those examples of flow. That's basically what I meant as bubble.
Yeah. And
yeah.
in terms of this flow, I like where you're starting to get into down here. The Michael Jordan, I think it works well. These streakinesses that are coming off of that one stock image you found, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be nice to repeat some of that on its way back.
Okay.
You know, like it's
Yeah, I actually tried that.
trailing over everything and not just trailing from, you know, a couple inches or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I tried that, but it kind of like kills the image of the other images. So like you can't really understand that those are like gambling cards and stuff like that.
Who's this? Oakley's.
Okay. So yeah, I was trying to represent how controlling social media is. And so I've added like the controllers to the guys on the couch, so it's a little more obvious that they're actually controlling what's on the TV. And I've just been messing around trying to make it so you know who's controlling what on the screen. So right now I just have that Snapchat notification, but I'd be open to other like ideas on how I can like convey who's controlling what.
I think whoever the Instagram player is controlling could have like the Instagram like notifications like pop up above the player's head. Like, oh, they
Thanks,
just
that's
got
cool.
so ever many likes on a post.
This almost looks like Bam Margera. Right here.
That's my brother.
Yeah, well, that's kind of who he looks like right there. Not quite, but a little bit.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool like if every app controlled like a certain person. So like, you know, one person had like the TikTok notification over them and then the other person had the Instagram. That'd be cool.
Okay, so you think it looks pretty obvious that the Snapchat notification is controlling the guy in the bottom left?
Yeah.
Is that clear?
At least to me it is.
I almost wonder if you could fit in like a notification drawer somewhere where it shows like a long list of app like notifications that they have. So it shows them all like trying to compete for that person. So maybe it's like 2 Snapchat notifications, a Facebook, a TikTok, another Snapchat.
Yeah, I do like that.
This isn't as helpful as I wish it would be of a comment, but I just remembered like really old Facebook how you could poke people. And I don't remember if there was like a solid notification for that, but that's what I was thinking of for like notifications for Facebook. I don't know if you could actually do something with it. That just got stuck in my head and I was like, oh yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, thank you. I'll look into that.
I want you to know I'm here, but I don't want to talk to you.
So I wonder if maybe they don't all have notifications. Maybe actually, I know I just said the notification jar, but maybe you go a route that like maybe someone has the Snapchat notifications, and then maybe like hearts from Instagram. Maybe it's the poking thing, poking him as well. I don't know anything about TikTok, so I don't know what that would be. Maybe something along that lines where like it's a bunch of different people trying to get with him, but it's like maybe the notification stays for Snapchat, but like the finger poking him.
Okay, yeah, I do like that a lot. Like the competition idea. I hadn't really thought about that.
Maybe have someone in the background like doing a TikTok dance, kind of. Like I know it's stationary, but doing some certain
I could
move.
probably find a way to do something like that.
Just put Charlie D'Amelio in it.
All right, well, it's pretty close to the end. Make sure we get through. Oh, is this the only two we have left then, or is, because I think at least there were, I think there's a couple people in here that just might not have things up. Anyhow, whose is this?
Mine. I just submitted it.
Jamie, okay.
It's really bad because I don't know how to use Photoshop like at all. But I typed in my proposal in the Facebook group. I'm gonna pull that up. It's supposed to represent like how resources are becoming scarce and stuff. So that's why I have like the tiny doors with the water and land. I also scanned those images in, like I took those. So that's why it kind of looks weird. But I don't really know. I'm kind of lost, honestly. I have like the tornado to show that like the electricity and stuff is just all like messed up and like, I don't know. I need to work on it a lot more. It's really just supposed to be like a dystopian, like kind of scene. That's why the sea creatures are in the air and stuff. I don't really have that much else to say.
Is there like are they like falling down from the sky like it's raining animals?
No, that's kind of just like where they live now.
Got you.
Like they can't live in the water because it's just so polluted. Like everything's messed up. That's what I was that's what I was going for.
And what are those doors for?
That's just like to represent the minimal like resources we have. I don't know.
I mean, if you want to go for the lightning field, I feel like you could maybe get like crop another image of like a thunderstorm, like it's like a cloudy sky, like where it's like having like a literal thunderstorm, and try and like copy and paste that into this one and try and play around with that one. It feels like darker and more powerful.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I was gonna add like a car driving on the road or something. Or maybe, I'm not sure yet.
You mentioned the Facebook like thing that it was about like over pollution. You could try to include some sort of like big factory making a lot of smoke in the background, and then maybe to make it more like clear that the doors, like the resources, just like have the doors lead to like some like tiny shacks of like where all of our resources are or something. Just like they're not just like two doors in the middle of like a field.
Yeah. That's a good idea. You could also like mess around with like the color of the sky, kind of make it like red or something to make it like look even more like a dystopian future, kind of with like the resources and everything.
Yeah. I'm not really sure how to work a lot of the tools on Photoshop, so I'm just gonna have to figure it out.
Okay, so this one's mine, and it's kind of just saying like how it's like a hyper reality of like corporations and capitalism, consumerism, like kind of taking over. And so we mentioned it in last class, but I do plan on putting like underneath all of the like signs, different types of buildings. And what I'm currently thinking for the buildings, but I'll take suggestions on, is I was gonna try to get like objects like take an image of like a PS5 or an Xbox and have those kind of represent the buildings because it's just like of more of like consumerism and just how those have like grown massively being the buildings. And on the right side of the road is going to be just like actual like people with a lot more color actively doing things and like talking to each other. And as they go into this building, like they come out just like all uniform single file businessmen.
Have you thought of maybe adding more signs or more screens in the background to help further sell the point?
I might add a few more, but like I don't want to just have like the whole image only be screens, which is why I was kind of thinking of like making that's why I was mentioning the buildings, of having them like be on things that are also like kind of mentioning the like consumerism of it. Because if it was just like I didn't like how if it was only just billboards and stuff.
Gotcha.
Like I definitely could add just like maybe one or two, but I'm definitely not thinking of only billboards.
Are the signs supposed to be like kind of floating or
no? I'm gonna using like the buildings underneath them and like layering it right, so like they're on top of buildings and stuff, not just like float. Cause like the one in the front, right? Like you suck, you can see like goes over the bridge. I'm not gonna have that like in the end result. It's gonna be like behind.
I'm sorry if I missed it, but like, are the men in suits supposed to be like representing like corporate workers?
Yeah, it's like so like this is like where they're all like a business area they're going into, and then like they're all coming out like single file, like very uniform type people as like this society converts them into that. Cause like they'll be going in, they'll have people being more normal, but then like coming out. Yeah, corporate, as you said.
I think the the console systems as buildings is a good idea. But are you gonna put them on both sides? Because you said the right was like people going in, or you're gonna put it like all around?
I think it's gonna be all around, just because I don't like. I'm not like saying like one side is all good, one side's bad. It's more just like the road of people going in would be good, but then like everywhere would be like those type of buildings, because those are like on the outside of like the actual society they're in.
So I know he's going to be adding some other buildings he's been mentioning. Aside from that, like as is, how do you guys think the like how is this uniformity of the entire background of this like purple? How is that working the image? And do you think there's other ways or other, to break it up, or is it working? And if we could hear from anybody that hasn't chimed in too much, that'd be good.
I think I like the uniformity with the purple because it's still like really dark and dreary, and it shows that with all of the bright, flashy, but like fake like signs or like controlling signs, I think it shows like what a dreary situation it is.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
I guess my thing is why purple? Like it's not working, but like why purple? I guess is there a reason, or is that's just what looked good?
I don't really have an answer. I just went with purple.
That's fair enough.
My thought is like it doesn't necessarily need to be. I don't think you necessarily need to cut everything out of the sky and replace the whole sky or something like that. But and this really applies to any of your images. If you have really stocky kinds of things going on, I don't think you necessarily have to like I just said, go through and cut this all out. But you could still potentially select all of that and then mask another image over it and have, a very light, have a lot of opacity. So it's, working other images in, but restricting them into certain spaces could affect the meaning, so I just think there's a lot of space to be playing in. My first go-to is always thinking about like how stock does something look? How unmodified could we be changing something to, work for our benefit? Okay. Did we not cover anybody? I think we did. Just have people missing, so. Cool. Yeah, I mean, compared to the other class, you guys had a lot more feedback. So hopefully you all have a pretty good sense of like, oh yeah, I have like different thoughts of moving forward now. At least that's the whole hope of today. So yeah, anyhow, Monday is our last in-class day for working on these. So make sure you're just really, knocking through some of these different changes or attempts. Save a new version if you need to, right? Duplicate layers if you want to try something but might revert back. Because honestly, after Monday, it's really just your guys' own time working on stuff. So hopefully you can reserve Monday for like, can't figure stuff out, reaffirmation, like how are things working now that we've made changes. So yeah, and if you guys have, I know some of you said you're struggling or you're newer to Photoshop and these types of things. you know, come by office hours today and we can work through some stuff. So cool. See you guys.
When will this recording be on UB Learns?
Say it again.
Will this recording be on UB Learns?
So I don't actually use UB Learns at all. I try to use it just for the quiz that we did at the beginning. Aside from that, everything's on my website. Okay. So did I walk you through how to find all the recordings?
If you could just again.
Yeah, no, I think there was a bunch of people who did you add the class late, like second week or something?
Did not, but I might have just missed.
Oh.
Where are you?
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, it's a good question. Let me I can stop this for now. Stop it.